Good evening. First part of the meeting is going to be really fun. So welcome to our August 30th, 2016 regular meeting. And we're going to go into a closed session. So do I have any public comments on the closed session item?
Do you have to read this first?
Not until we come back in. Okay, so we're adjourning into closed session, and that'll be half an hour. Good. Okay, welcome to our August 30th, 2016 regular meeting. We adjourned into, we came in at 5:30 p.m. and adjourned into closed session. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, Michael Gillespie versus County of Calaveras, Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, case number CCVC-56, man, my glasses now, 55976, CCVC-361753, County Council, and there was no action taken. So at this time, could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you can?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I think you guys should give yourself a hand for agreeing on something. All of you did. That was great. The pledge. We have recognition and acknowledgments, and Supervisor Kearney will do that.
Well, unfortunately, Yvonne Van Zie's not here. She's already moved on, but I have the real pleasure of reading this, and hopefully she's listening. I wanted to know how much she was appreciated. She worked in our Public Works Department, and in particular in the solid waste issues. She was a real asset, not only for the department, but for me personally, since I became the supervisor that associated himself with, as I like to say, the garbage supervisor. And she helped me with many, many things, and has been missed ever since she has decided to move her family to Las Vegas. The proclamation recognizing and honoring Yvonne Van Zie for 9 years of distinguished service in the Public Works Department, Solid Waste Division. Whereas Yvonne Van Zie has served the public for 9 years in positions of increasing knowledge and diversity since July 2007, and whereas Yvonne brought talent, experience, hard work, and a positive attitude to fulfill the responsibilities of her various duties and assignments, and whereas the county has benefited from Yvonne's knowledge of and commitment to obtaining grants, educating the community through her efforts at the Calaveras County Fair and coordinating programs such as the annual household hazardous waste events for county residents, and whereas Yvonne's tireless recycling efforts not only extended the life of our landfill by several years, but paved the way for other rural counties to succeed in their own diversion efforts to keep materials that include textiles, books, oil, bicycles, durable medical equipment, carpeting, and mattresses out of their landfills, and whereas Yvonne stepped up in the absence of a solid waste manager to assist with state recycling mandates and preparation of comprehensive reports to the county, to the division's local enforcement agency, to contract haulers, and to various state agencies. And whereas Yvonne's persistence and dedication have earned her the respect and camaraderie of her co-workers and colleagues in other rural communities, and whereas Yvonne will be sorely missed by staff and those she worked with who found her a devoted friend and co-worker and a tenacious recycler. Now, therefore be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors honors and thanks Yvonne Van Zee for her 9 years of contributions to the public. And
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So call for public comments.
is there any public comment?
Yeah.
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. Vaughn is watching us tonight, streaming. I talked to her this afternoon. All of the things that Supervisor Kearney said were more than true. Yvonne was a tireless worker, a great employee, and she moved us along significantly toward meeting state-mandated goals for not only diversion but recycling. Under Yvonne, we reached new lows in pounds of solid waste produced per day per citizen and new highs in volume of material recycled, diverted, reused. I think that is probably the greatest testament to her tenure at the county, are those numbers that had not ever been achieved at our county before. I would like to let you know that in Yvonne's absence, she's asked her friend, Mary Pito, who is also a representative of the RCRC, to receive the proclamation in her stead, and she is here tonight.
Well, do we have any more public comments on this? Okay, so Yvonne was real helpful and big in recycling efforts in the county, and like Jeff said. And so Mary here works for RCRC, used to work for the county many years ago, and works for RCRC in many different capacities. And is extremely engaged in the landfill and that sort of thing for our county. So I have a motion by me and a second by Oliveira, Supervisor Oliveira. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
May I further proclaim that the board wishes Yvonne Van Zee a long and happy retirement. I'm really pleased to present this to you, Mary, and the board.
John wanted me to express her gratitude for this recognition. She said none of her accomplishments could have been possible without the integrated waste management team, which includes Gamby and Cal Waste and the residents of Calaveras County. It's their commitment and dedication to making the needed changes, and the board's support to make the changes in recycling and diversion programs, and the residents for accepting and utilizing the new programs. But I would also like to say that the Rural Counties Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority, which is a solid waste JPA, also recognized Yvonne's and her contribution to the JPA with the presentation of a resolution at one of our board members. Yvonne exemplified the rural dedication to recycling efforts and what rural communities can accomplish with enthusiasm despite their limited resources. She earned the respect of all of the other JPA members. She was also appreciated by Cal Recycle staff for her tremendous efforts and dedication to trying to meet the state's expectations. She's not only going to be missed by the county, but her colleagues in other counties and the state as well. I just wish that she were here to be able to accept this recognition. Well, actually, I think I'd wish she was just back here again, but she thanks you.
All right. Thank you. That's a good way to start. All right. So now we'll enter into public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent agenda, consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda, unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that we skipped over announcements on the agenda. Could I have 10 seconds?
Yeah. Okay. Let me finish reading this.
Okay.
We'll do that. If the public comment is completed within 30 minutes allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the regular agenda. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the consent agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard. And before we start public comments, I'd like to give Supervisor Oliveira a chance at his announcement.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to personally recognize the presence and of Unit Chief Josh White from Cal Fire and say a job well done in recent fire to him and his units and protecting our community.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Oliveira. One comment that I would just like to make is kudos to the residents of the Willow Creek subdivision who had their defensible space, the clearances around those residential structures. We were able to go in. We didn't lose a residential structure. We had one garage that was lost, that was destroyed by the fire, and partial damage to one structure. But truly, by having that defensible space, the limited resources that we had on initial attack, we're able to do a bump and run, go and protect one structure and then bump up to the next one, and just one after another. 450 acres, we were able to contain it in one day. I was really proud of everybody, but really kudos to the residents up there. Thank you.
That's good. And I'd like to thank you also for getting the resources, because I know that there's other fires in the state, and I noticed, you really brought in some real good resources for that fire. That was great to see. So, thank you for the information. I didn't know that was just one structure, so that's good. That's great. Thank you. All right, public comments, please. Don't be shy.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Lisa Klotz, K-L-O-T-Z. It's kind of a funny name. My students call me Mrs. K. And I am the educational coordinator for Cal Waste Recycling Recovery Systems, recycle education programs that they hold in the school systems. We partner together with local schools to help encourage students understand how they can use recycling to create a better working and living community, school, and environment around them. Our team of 4 teachers are teacher-based. They're teacher leaders. They are used to the classroom. They come from the local communities. And we teach 4th and 2nd grade, and we teach the process of recycling to them. We start with the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, and it's really important to us that we teach them 2 additional R's, and one of those is to rethink, and to rethink about what they believe is trash and how they dispose of that, how they get rid of that during their school day. We also teach the 5th R, which is responsibility. It's up to them to protect the environment. It's up to their personal choices and responsibility of what they do. And we find that this program has been very successful in the school systems. We've been teaching this in Galt for 3 years, and at the beginning of this school year in 2016, we are pleased to announce that all of the Calaveras elementary school systems are participating now in this program. I've spent the last 3 weeks at Jenny Lind. Delightful school, delightful students. And I'm also training a local teacher to help lead that. You may know her name. It's Mrs. Garahan. And the students absolutely adore her. We also try to integrate the messages, our recycle messages, with what the teacher is having in their current curriculum and their core standards that are they're trying to express to their students. So we include math and social science and citizenship and skills like that. We also include activities and games that require critical thinking skills and teamwork, so they can understand what it's like to work in a team.
20 seconds.
The last thing that I want to let you know is that Cal Waste Recycle has been granted a lovely award, a very well-deserved award from the Sacramento Area Sustainable Business. They have been awarded the Sustainable Business of the Year, and that award will be given on September. Shall I stop? I'm not sure of the process here. Okay. That award will be presented on September 21st at the Secaucus Library Galleria in downtown Sacramento, and we wanted to invite all of you to come and participate in receiving that award, because along with the recycle education, this award is a wonderful opportunity for Cal Waste to bring recognition to all the communities it serves, including Calaveras County, in placing environmental and sustainable practices top on their list. Thank you very much.
Kaz Tomaszewski, Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. I just wanted to talk about some issues we've been hearing about with inspections of registered cannabis grows. To the credit of both Sheriff's Department and code compliance, by all accounts, these have been very good experiences for our growers. But there's a couple of things that have been happening that have been concerning. One has been a consistently low measuring of canopy. We've received at least 6 reports of gardens where people thought they were at 20,000 square feet and were told they were at 10, even when they've had a surveyor do work that corroborates it. We're not sure exactly how or why this is happening, but it seems to be a widespread issue. The other is inspectors failing people on their initial inspections for things that seem to be cursory issues, such as, in one instance, a grower had their paperwork to post up on a post. The post was in place. They had the paperwork in hand. But rather than letting that grower put it up in front of them and passing them when it was the only issue, they instead failed it for that inspection, so they come back later. Other issues between what type of fencing people are using. When there is an offer to correct it at the time, it is refused and they are instead failed. Our concern is that this is racking up a number of inspection fails for issues that are almost immediately solvable that may not be necessary, and also that the data on canopy that the county will be receiving via its reports won't be accurate. We have no idea why this is taking place. Apparently, that we've heard that they are using laser measuring tools. Perhaps there is an issue with interpretation or usage of those tools, but it's something that we would like to be taken a look at. And that's pretty much it. But again, to echo, the inspections have gone very well from the standpoint of our growers. I wanted to thank county departments for that. Thank you very much.
Any other public comments? No? Good. Okay, so we'll move on to regular agenda. Sorry, go ahead.
Item 3 on the regular agenda is from Information Technology to approve an agreement and purchase order to Geo North LLC in the amount of $59,447.20 to obtain satellite imagery for Calaveras County. The updated imagery will be used to support needs of cannabis cultivation, registration, and enforcement.
Hello, Stan Moore from Information Technology. So we're bringing a proposal forward this evening to do a satellite imagery capture in early part of September, and it will be the second one of these that we have done this year. We did one in the end of May as well. And this is being done in support of work with cannabis. So I can speak to any of the technical needs of this. We are using the same company that we used the first pass around, and based on the work that we did when we did the imagery capture in May, we had gone out to competitive quotes, and the company that we used at that time had given us a significantly lower price than other companies. Based on the amount of time that it takes to go through vetting a new company and the price that we got when we did this the first time, we elected to bring forward a proposal to go with the same company as a sole source. If there are questions on the technology side of this or the costs, I can address those. Peter Maurer is here from planning, and he is one of the clients that we're supporting with this, and he has offered to come in and address any questions that have to do with how we are using the imagery.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. This satellite imagery program, will that be able to assist in measuring the canopies?
It has the capability to do that. We have done some initial testing with that, so it does have the capability to. The folks that are doing the on-site inspections have felt that it is more accurate for them to do on-the-ground inspections with the tools that they have at their wherewithal at that time. So, but we do have the capability from the imagery to do that.
Do you know the procedure or the method of measuring canopies now without using this program?
Peter will be able to address that. I do know, but I'll let Peter.
Before Peter comes up, just out of curiosity, the first imaging was $50,000. Why is this more?
The company that did this for us, we gave them a very serious challenge for the first go around. Their initial bid had been $72,000 in the first one, and we said that's way more than we are prepared to pay. And we told them that we wanted to be in the $45,000 range. We came in a little bit higher than that. They have not done a lot of business with the public sector. They have a very strong, compelling desire to get into public sector. We've talked to them about the work that we are doing on multiple fronts with satellite imaging. They are hoping that they can build business with Calaveras County, and that will transcend over to other counties as well, perhaps even the state. The bids that we had received initially were all in that $70,000 and above range. Our perspective is that the first pass that we did with them was probably very close to their cost, if not below. All of these companies rent from the same satellites. So we think that we got an extremely good deal the first time. We certainly can take this back out to bid again. I would be surprised if we would come in below this. They have told us that if we do another imagery capture, we've already got a contract waiting to go that we could execute at any time that would be $56,000.
No, I'm all for developing relationships with a good vendor. That wasn't my question. I just wondered why it was more. And thank you for answering.
So we used the imagery to get an estimate of the area. As we review the applications, we'll compare that with what was the image capture that we got in May to determine, is it within the range that's expected. When you're measuring it, there's a tool on our GIS that allows you to measure the image on the screen. I would not rely on it as a completely accurate measurement just because of the scale that you're using. I think more accurate measurement would be done in the field. That's what we're relying on right now, are measurements in the field. But for example, if someone said they were growing 10,000 square feet and you can do a quick measurement on the map and it shows it was 2,000 or 20,000 square feet, we can identify that as something that we need to check more closely in the field.
So are you aware, or maybe you could advise, are you using photogrammetry in this program that we're purchasing? In other words, a distance between two known points, taking a photograph and doing a measurement that way?
I'd have to defer to Stan on that.
The images that we have are orthorectified, so that they are accurate on a lat long level. What you're talking about is the next step. We have not used that, but that certainly is a capability that we can move towards.
So we have that capability with this program.
We have more work to do to get to that capability, but the images, because they are orthorectified, give us that possibility where we will be able to do that, yes. Not doing it now, we can get to that.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Get up to the podium.
Bill Wilson. My question would be real simple. If you use that extra step in that program, how much more does that cost?
I don't have a cost on that right now.
My name is Peter Race from the 5th District of Jenny Lind. The cost is not exactly peanuts. Okay? I don't know how many of you folks have ever seen Google Earth. I can pretty much focus in on your house, your driveway, and etc. Maybe Google Earth will not penetrate a canvas-covered area, and I presume they will be able to tell you the difference between parsley and pot. That's one thing. And there's a lot of ifs I hear. And I know you got money to do, just do whatever, because you don't know what to do with it all. But the other point is that somebody brought to my attention, and that's very valid. Have you folks talked to the federal government? You got a satellite going up there around. And whatever is beside just looking at the pot and so on, you got the fire, you got the drought, you got the bugs, whatever, okay? Before you blow that kind of money on a very, very iffy, and there's a couple degrees variation, snow, clouds, and etc., so there's no guarantee whatsoever what you're going to get. But have you folks ever thought about maybe contacting the federal government? There's a satellite that goes around every couple of minutes. And there's a whole bunch of federal land around us also. So I would say before you blow the money on an iffy thing, on exploring what possibly it will give for this county, you can get beside the whole county and a whole area, this includes federal land, and you can pretty much isolate. I think the feds have pretty good technology to get down there and dirty and see if you have a cavity or not. It would be a lot cheaper. Plus, do you ever think about, that's kind of scary to me, then when you're putting in this kind of imaging and invasion of privacy
30 seconds.
to your constituents. I can understand you want to look at the pot plans. I know I can appreciate the planning department. But there's more to it than just making it convenience for those folks. You are going to be invading privacy of folks that has nothing to do with the pot, nothing to do with the planning department, but you're going to be invade their privacy. Now the feds, they don't have to worry about it. You do. So please consider it. You got a couple of options: Google Earth and the feds. And both of them would be very, very cheap. And pretty accurate too, by the way. Talk to some real estate agents. Thank you.
If I can briefly respond to the issue of using Google Earth. while it is very accurate, it is not, we don't know the time that it's taken, and the whole purpose here is to sort of get a snapshot in time of where it was at the beginning of season, where we are at harvest time, so we have a much better idea of how much cultivation is occurring out there. Google may or may not do another flight sometime, and they don't justify that. So the accuracy of the information we have and can get is very accurate, and it's definitely worth is a great tool for us to use. It has other applications as well, as far as prior building permit activity, other things, the tree mortality issues that can be used for other things, but the primary purpose would be for the cannabis regulation program.
I'll make this real brief. I'm Bob Bowerman. If this is a tool that our sheriff needs, give it to him. It's really that simple. That right now, we've got approximately not quite 800 legal cannabis farmers out there. Our sheriff now has additional help, and he needs more. And this is the time for our sheriff, while he has the time and the additional help, to go out and get rid of the cartels and the gangs and the bad actors. Don't waste this time over a few dollars. If there's a better deal, of course, do that. But this sounds pretty strong. And my recommendation is give the sheriff exactly what he needs to do his job. Thanks.
Any other public comments?
Somebody left their pad up here. Hi, Mary Stubbins, Rural Angels Camp. Per the agenda, this board is looking to award a contract to GEO North LLC, an Alaska-based company, for aerial photographs of the county. If the intent is to have satellite photos used for the 2016 compliance, there is little value in a contract of this type this late in the season. The pot growers have already started to harvest their 2016 grow. The county knows where almost 800 grow sites exist. Illegal growers will be harvesting and gone by the end of September. Going fly. Pictures of empty pods in greenhouses are of questionable value. This type of support for the ordinance should have occurred in April or May of 2016. If the ban initiative qualifies for the March 2017 ballot and is passed by the majority of the voters, the county already knows the location of about 800 grow sites. Aerial photos can only be valuable in providing information on illegal growers. Almost $55,000 to find these growing illegal is of questionable value. Reasonable judgment says 2016 is lost to us in terms of regulation and enforcement. Planning code, compliance, the Sheriff Department, water quality are all behind in their workload due to this board's passage of an emergency ordinance without the forethought related to workflow coordination between county and state agencies. You can be taken up in a 4-seater aircraft and fly over the county for much less than $55,000 to identify illegal and legal grow sites. An aerial photo is only good at a single point in time. Repeated trips up in a small aircraft allow personnel to monitor grow site activities on an ongoing basis. This contract, in my opinion, I'm sorry to say, is a further indication of the lack of planning and foresight on the part of this board. Thank you.
Kaz Tomaszewski, CCA. Just to clarify, 90% of the crop will still be unharvested by the middle of October, but very little gets harvested in September. So long as whatever imagery is taken, if it is meant to show canopy of growing plants, so long as it's done before October 15th, you should be able to catch most of it. September harvests are very rare.
Josh White with CAL FIRE. I'd like to emphasize the necessity for this information related to the tree mortality. The reality is that CAL FIRE is working with the U.S. Forest Service to do the aerial imagery via plane. This last year we were supposed to do it in May, and that got postponed back to June, sometime in June, just due to the weather as well as pilot sickness. So this is an opportunity for Calaveras, who is going to be competing against at least 9 other counties for grant funds. This is a data set that you'll be able to capitalize on to identify. We know we have over 66 million trees in the Sierras that are dead. We know that throughout the Sierras, 100,000 are dying every day. Calaveras has an opportunity to capitalize on a lot of different grant funds by being able to take this specialized information and streamline it directly into your grant requests. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay. Back to the board.
Mr. Chair, question. County Council, is there any rights of privacy when dealing with satellite photographs in a situation like this, or any aerial photography?
There isn't a concern from my office as far as a right to privacy when it comes to these images and the images that the county would be obtaining through this contract. No.
Okay, so there's no issue? Is that my understanding? So actually, we could use satellite photos, we could use aerial photos, we could use drone photos, couldn't we? That's not actually violating anything you're aware of in your office?
If the board would like a full memo on privacy as it relates to images and what the county can and can't use for purposes of this, we can certainly provide a full memo to the board. But for purposes of this contract and this agenda item, the images that we would be obtaining through this contract, there is no concern.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see that memo if possible.
I don't need to see that memo. I mean, no disrespect to Michael.
I understand.
But I just don't think the county council should be spending time on that at this point. Just in limited resources.
So what does the rest of the board say about that?
I mean, to me, that ship sailed a long time ago. You've been able to subscribe to Google Earth for some time if you want. Peek into people's backyards if that's what you want to spend your free time doing. But I don't need to see the memo. I can appreciate Mike's concern.
I don't see the memo. I was accused here recently from photographs from the air that I was a grower, and apparently that information was wrong. So I'm all for the satellite imagery to narrow down on proper things.
You mean real facts?
Real facts.
That would be good. So I see the value in it. You know, these images are pretty darn clear. I know if you go to Google Earth right now and you try to bear down on something, you're looking at November of last year. So you never know what date it's going to be. I don't know when they update, but as Chief White said, you know, the other possibilities are really an advantage for our county, and maybe we could, you know, get ahead of the game. That would be really good. But so I see a lot of value in this, and so I'm in support.
This,
And one additional comment too, this is not coming out of our general fund. This is coming out of the monies collected, correct?
That's correct. Because it is using for the cannabis program, for administration and enforcement, it is coming out of the registration fees.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
A motion by Supervisor Kearney, second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, thank you.
Item 4 is from Information Technology to authorize a total project cost of $95,490 to install a data center UPS, including approval of purchase orders to E+ in the amount of $55,678.55 for the data center UPS device, to Gold Electric in the amount of $30,664 for electrical work related to the installation of the UPS device, and to HCS Engineering, Inc. for the amount of $4,600 for complete design work. The total project cost includes a 5% project contingency.
Good evening. Stan Moore from Information Technology. The project that we're bringing forward this evening is a proposal to put a large-scale UPS in that will take care of the needs of our main data center. Right now, the servers in that data center are supported by a series of small UPS, uninterrupted power supply units. We have approximately 25 of those that have anywhere from 4 to 16 batteries in each one. It's a challenge to use this old technology with the individual UPSs to keep all of our servers going at all times. So it's very common in the industry to have, with the data center the size that we have, to have a larger UPS that takes care of the short-term needs. What this really does is cover the needs from the time that we have a power outage until our generator kicks in. Typically, that's a very short period of time, but without UPS, that's enough time to take a server down. So this will keep the servers going for sometime between 15 minutes and 30 minutes. We do tests on that power generator on a regular basis, so we shouldn't have any problems in having this larger UPS take care of the needs of all of the servers that are in that room. We had HCS come in and do a design for us, and the design then was posted to get quotes. We only got one quote that came in. That was from a local company, Gold Electric, and it was the quote that they gave us of $30,000 was well within what the engineer estimates were for. In the work that HCS did, they specified the specific UPS device that we should have. They stressed that we would be able to get a better price by going out and shopping that ourselves than having the electrical engineer go out and do that for us. So we did shop that around, and we got multiple quotes on that. The lowest was from E+. The price from E+, including tax and the shipping, is $56,000. So it will get us up to a total of $95,000. It is really all about business continuity, keeping those servers going, reducing problems that we have if the servers go down. There's also a health issue. When we have that many individual UPSs in the data center and that many batteries, there's always concern as the batteries get old, can start to leak. So there's safety concerns as well that the UPS will be located outside of the data center. We'll take care of those issues. Questions?
Can you indulge me and tell me what UPS stands for?
Uninterrupted power supply.
So we're not getting into the shipping and receiving of UPS?
No, sir. No, sir.
I kind of thought that was true.
Yeah.
That's what I thought we were talking about.
So it will take care of it. It provides a constant power supply. So in addition to if there is a power outage keeping us going, if there is a power spike that comes into the county, it takes care of that to make sure that the servers are always getting a constant power supply.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And this is one of the projects that the board approved in the overall list of infrastructure, IT infrastructure needs, and that IT is moving forward on.
Right, I'm good with that. I just couldn't remember what UPS stood for.
Question? Stan, do we have to upgrade the panels at all for power, or are we okay there?
We're okay there. There was a little bit of work that had to be done, but we've already addressed that.
Okay.
And the work that will be done with that, and there is some additional, that's included in this electrical work that will be done with that $30,000.
From Gold? Okay.
Yes.
So in a way, what we're talking about is a super surge protector that will keep everything protected in case of things going haywire with electrical flow, right?
Surge protector, as well as providing that additional battery backup.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good way of
How
looking
long
at it.
is the battery backup for?
The design work that we did on this had said that we would have at least 15 minutes. We believe it will be more in the lines of 30 minutes. Hans and I were talking about this before coming over here this evening. Once it's put in place, we will do a controlled test and actually see how much time that we've got. We think that it will be more than 15 minutes because when we did that initial look, it was powering more than just the servers. It was powering some additional equipment in the data center, including some of the air conditioning. We will have that taken off of the UPS now so that it will primarily be computer equipment. We believe it will give us more in the 30-minute range. We know that it will give us at least 15 minutes. That 15 minutes is plenty of time for us to do a controlled shutdown so that if the generator doesn't kick in, UPS is giving us all of our power, then we'll have automated tools in place that will start to, within a couple of minutes, start to shut down the servers in an orderly fashion so that it's not like you're just pulling the plug.
So that's automated too, this
Yes.
shutdown. So,
yes.
Because I imagine you don't have 24/7 staffing to
That's right.
go through that process.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one more before it goes. Is Gold Electric, that's a local company, am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just want to verify that. So we had to buy the technological product from someone else in our installer?
That is correct.
Thank you. I just try to make sure that we're keeping our local people working as much as possible.
Yes.
Okay. Any public comments?
Before my retirement, for 30-some years, I was in the computer industry. I had a company of my own called Onsite IT that serviced banks, Hyatt hotels, and other industries in the Bay Area. Basically, my job was to go around the Bay Area once a day. A UPS system on a database is not recommended. It's mandatory for your data. Your data, the county's data, everything you have in there, with a simple power outage, can be gone in the blink of an eye. You need to at least make sure your UPS is possibly double of whatever the current load is, and you need to design in room for expansion. Your data center may be this big today, it may be 40 times that big in another 5 years. That whole generator, backup system, and UPS needs to be there so that your data is there when you need it. You should also use a backup to the cloud, where you have that data somewhere else in Colorado, South Dakota, or some other data center besides California. We have a major earthquake. Your UPS is useless. It's gone. Your data's gone. If it's in the cloud, if it's in South Dakota, you still can retrieve it. You can't retrieve it if it's gone. And shutting down a server wrong, I did that one too many times. It doesn't take a big deal for that to happen. So I would recommend you get yourself covered and keep yourself covered like a warm blanket. Thank you.
The UPS that we're looking at is able to be extended as county needs would grow, so that has been taken into consideration. And we did a lot of work with the engineering company in terms of what our load is going to be. So very fine comments, and they were taken into consideration. As we move forward with some other business continuity initiatives, we'll be back in front of the board looking at ways that we can utilize two main data centers that we've got on the campus for backing up to each to the other site, so that if we would have a catastrophic failure in one data center, have the data backed up in another one.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, bring back to the board.
I move to approve.
All right. We have a motion by Supervisor Kearney,
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Fonte. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 5 is from the Administrative Office to provide direction on which site the county should pursue in choosing a tree mortality processing area. Takes a second. It'll take a minute.
It's thinking about it.
That proclamation, typo on the top of it before we send it to
Good evening. Brian Moss with the Administrative Office. Just a short PowerPoint presentation tonight on tree mortality. As the board's aware, this is a popular topic and is approaching you essentially consistently, and we have a couple board members that do sit on the statewide tree mortality task force as well. So for those of you who aren't aware, the board is very much involved as well as county staff. Part of the process that we're looking at is where do we process trees for those that are taken out as far as bug-free kill. So with that said, we'll move forward on this. Not a surprise, conifers continue to succumb to the pine beetle at an alarming rate, really throughout the Sierra Nevada foothills right now and the Sierra Nevadas in general, resulting in an increase in significant tree mortality within Calaveras County as well as to our north and to our south. Due to the sheer number of the trees that are affected, they'll need to be removed and processed, and the county can expect to be addressing this issue for several years to come. And I say several years because some say 5, some say 8, some say 10. So we don't really know what that's going to be. It also is weather dependent. Processing trees can take several forms, including the chipping, the grinding, the masticating, the burning using an air curtain burner, and of course seeking markets for both chipped and whole trees. Staff has identified some potential long-term sites for processing of trees, and these include the Lehigh property, which is next to Mountain Oak School off of Pole Station Road. This property is actually adjacent to the Mountain Oak School, and as a first step, what staff did is I met with the Calaveras County Office of Education, and they were actually very receptive to the idea of having it there, essentially as an educational tool to see how the timber would be processed. The Lehigh property can be leased for $500 a month. I got a friend here. And the CDAA funds, which is California Disaster Assistance Act funds, would cover 75% of these costs, leaving the county's share at a cost of $125 a month upon reimbursement from the state. Now, for some of you, you're aware, and certainly Chair Edson is aware that we thought we were going to have the original cement site for the processing, but that didn't pan out. So Lehigh has offered an additional site. Get my little trusty pointer here. And this is the property that Lehigh is offering us right now, getting Pole Station Road. If you follow on down, this is one of the excavation pits. Fall down Pole Station Road, and this is the site we were originally looking at for processing. So since this was out, this site here has been offered to us by Lehigh. So this is just a potential and a possibility for the board to consider. In addition to that, we also met with CCWD general manager, and he's here tonight, Dave Egerton. I should also state that Josh White has also been on both properties as well. As a matter of fact, we met on the CCWD property off of Angels Road this morning to discuss this site. It can be accessed through a 1920s highway right-of-way that parallels the property. Believe it or not, it's actually paved out there. It's about a 60-foot easement, and it's fenced on both sides. As of the writing of this report, we didn't have a cost estimate at this point. However, this is something we'd work with CCWD on as far as really a partnership, because at this point, CCWD needs to get rid of their trees, the county needs to get rid of their trees, and of course, CAL FIRE being a major partner in helping supply equipment and et cetera for this. So this is the site that we're thinking about. This is Angels Road right here, which is the old Highway 449 alignment right here. And this is actually about 15.8 acres. This red line here is, and it goes down, kind of down like this, and that is the old highway easement. What I had GIS do, courtesy of Stan's shop, is to just kind of sketch in what it would take to put an easement over here. CCWD is looking into that as well. The idea would be to actually have vehicles come along Pool Station Road, come up George Reed Drive, go straight up here, come up here, and come in here to process. One of the things we discussed this morning was when you leave here, this should probably be one-way traffic if the board decides to go in this direction. CCWD, again, is here to support this and talk about their perspective on it as well. Some real quick photos of this morning. That's actually the property is right here. That's the property line, as a matter of fact. And you'll notice how wide this easement really is. Kind of surprising, really. And some of us out there saying they're taking a look at it on the pavement this morning. That's me taking a photo of it with my phone. Catch myself. This would be an entry gate that already exists. It would have to be widened should the board go in this direction. And this is just an overall panoramic picture of the site. It's fairly level out there, which is very nice. You can also get far away from, which surprised us, and really out of sight of the highway as you move further away in the property. So that's very important, especially when we're looking at this area right here to work in. So really, you can't really see any of this out here, and I don't know if it's a half mile away or what it is approximately from the highway, but it's a good range. So that's a good thing. The other side of it is this is a split zone. I looked at this property originally for the new animal shelter several years ago. Some of you will remember that. It is a split zoning, but it is industrial, so this is something that is achievable should the board choose to pursue that.
Brian?
Yes?
Can you go back to the map?
Absolutely.
So, who owns, is that all CCWD property we're seeing there? Who's the adjacent property owner?
No, this is privately owned. CCWD is looking into this right now.
And who owns it?
I can't, it's in a trust, and it's people in Stockton, and that's about as much as I know of it. They're working with the planning department to contact these people. Robbie Kramer joined us this morning as well when Josh and Dave and I met out there as well. So this would have to be achieved. There's no question about it. You see CCWD's right there. And
then what is the other property there?
This...
Yeah, that big long one there.
This one, I don't know what this is, but I will tell you that this road easement we should be able to access. Again, it's all fenced. As a matter of fact, when we walked out here this morning, a lot of cattle up here, a few cattle in here, up in here, but a lot of cattle up here, and they're not getting out onto the easement.
You don't know who owns that piece there?
This piece?
Yeah.
I don't know who owns this piece, but I want to say it's very fair to say that we have one of the planners that knows the people that actually own these pieces. So would these people be notified? Of course they would.
Can you assure their easements good still? that we can actually use it?
Well, we kind of looked at that, and I even ran that by council, and it appears that it is something that can be used. It appears all it's being used for today is maybe for a vehicle to go up to service the cattle, essentially. It is kept up, but it's as you can see from that one photo, it's not used a lot. So, and exactly, and that's another point. Thank you, Supervisor Wright. That's something we discussed this morning is if this is actually cut, we would need to have gravel put in that. There might be funding through CAL FIRE to do that kind of thing. This would need to be cleaned up, of course, a wider entrance to go in. This line goes right over to here. So, and we're talking about accessing it right in that area right there. So, anyway, I think it's a promising site, as well as the Lehigh site. They're both promising sites. This one is not as close to anybody as, let's say, the Lehigh property, which is across from Mountain Oak School. And again, that's why I ran the idea past Mountain Oak School before I even came to the board with this. And I realize I'm a little early on bringing this to the board, but the tree mortality is increasing, and I just don't want to wait. Supervisor Olivera.
Did I hear you say that this site's near Highway 4 and 49?
No. This site here is right outside of San Andreas. So if you took a straight line and head right over here, you'd be in Government Center. Okay? So that's Angels Road. That's the old alignment of Highway 49. Yeah. So, but it's not.
Both those sites are in San Andreas.
Yes, they are.
Wow.
They both are.
Close to your, it's amazing. Only 2 sites in the county right in San Andreas. That's amazing.
But we need other sites. We need other sites. So even if the board should choose one of these sites for staff to move forward and looking into more seriously, and that's what we're looking for tonight, is direction. The reality is there's going to need to be other sites along Highway 4, along Highway 26, just for, staging and decking and that kind of thing. And I think
that makes sense. That's where the trees are.
That's where the trees are. And coming down both corridors.
I don't know if there's a lot of bug-killed trees in San Andreas.
No, but what's nice about it is San Andreas, fortunately or unfortunately, is a central location. So, what we want to do is, CAL FIRE has gone to bat for Calaveras County in terms of setting aside an air curtain burner, if you will, since it's Tuolumne Calaveras unit, TCU. The air curtain burner could very well go to Tuolumne County as well. Tuolumne County has a cogen plant, we don't. So that's really in their favor. CAL FIRE has really stepped up with representing Calaveras, and I very, very much appreciated that. I've been out with them at least 2 or 3 different times. So just looking at different sites, some of them that we realized real quickly weren't going to work at all. Matter of fact, Supervisor Edson, I shared with him, I said, I have this idea, and I won't go back to the slide again, but across from the old cement plant, there's a road, access road that goes up to a rock plant to one of the old quarries. I thought, we could make this work. And I took out the assistant chief, and she looked at me and said, I don't think so. I think we could light something on fire. So anyway, I appreciated that. And those are the kinds of things I don't know, and that's why I've been grabbing them.
You mean with the air curtain burner?
The air curtain burner, right.
Have you done much thought about what kind of volume it would handle?
Actually, our Public Works Director actually did some calculations on that. Is he still here? Yeah. We were just talking about that because, as you well know, Public Works considered purchasing an air curtain burner for, I want to say, the Pine Belt.
That's why I'm asking, because
it's just one piece.
For it to handle what we needed was...
It's just one piece of the pie for the air curtain burner.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the air curtain burner, they can do anywhere from, I think, about 7 to 15 cubic yards of debris per hour. It's not as fast as a large linear grinder, as fast as a tub grinder.
We have another issue with curtain burners, and we've discovered this in the state task force meetings at the governor's office. apparently the state has authorized the use of them, but apparently the air quality control people on the Fed level has really, really curtailed the use of them.
My understanding is, as your former air pollution control officer, is yes. I think Region 9 is batting that around, federal EPA. However, this is a gubernatorial declaration, and I do recognize that federal EPA is indeed federal, and we're state. But it's interesting because I want to say that our California Air Resources Board is working with them to make this work.
Now, was I incorrect, Chief White, that was an issue in the meeting?
No, you're correct. The benefit for us is that we have, statewide, we have 6 of these air curtain modules, if you will. And so Tuolumne Calaveras unit has been assigned one of the modules. The module incorporates 2 air curtain burners, the loader, and a skid steer for cleanup. So the air quality is an issue, but fortunately for us, Sacramento's dealing with that issue and going through the permitting process with the federal government. My understanding is that we have 1 year. We can start burning, and we have a year to get that permit. If the state of California isn't able to get the permit, we're going to have to shut down until that permit is authorized.
Yeah, I bring that up because we have a private entity in District 3 that purchased a curtain burner.
Yes.
And going through the state certification and getting operations cooperating with CAL FIRE, then all of a sudden he can't use it because of that very same reason.
Right. One of the things that we found once we started doing some of the practice burns down in Fresno County is that we want to utilize this more for getting rid of limbs and smaller debris. When they were putting logs in, it just takes a much longer time to burn, and so it slows the process down.
Why I was bringing it up, because it's not, excuse me, just the logs. It takes a mix of stuff to get the fire hot enough to make it.
Absolutely, yeah. It takes a while to get it up to heat, and then we're able to be really efficient with the burning process. The other thing is that it's an absolute shame to burn logs. We need to find these different avenues for us to make something out of the logs, to take the prime stuff and be able to sell that to SPI or some other mill site.
We're working on it.
I'm going to stay up here in case there's more
questions.
Thank
you. That's a great idea. And really, I think it's very important not to over-focus on the air curtain burner, because that's just one aspect. I agree with Chief White, certainly, that, it doesn't make a lot of sense to burn the logs. Matter of fact, one of the engineers in Public Works sent me a clip today from Caltrans showing how they're chipping the logs over in Tuolumne County off of Highway 108. So, chipping is certainly something we'd be looking at. Grinding is the other option. The other option is, can we stack these logs, and can people have access to them, and just who can have access to them, and for what purpose? So, we do know from, not to go too far into the biology, but we do know that the logs from tree kill only last so long, partially due to the fact that wood borers eventually come in, and our friend Mr. Tate from SPI will tell you that they're not any good for lumber at that point. But anyway, with that said, that would be part of the enterprise, is looking at, what can be recycled, what can be reused, what can be chipped, what can be ground, and like Chief White was saying, the slash, the brush, that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing you can use the air curtain burner for. So,
Brian, as far as this site goes, what is the overall use going to be for the site? Is it just going to be for the air curtain burner? Is there going to be a chipper there?
That would be the idea.
A small mill there. I mean, what's the scope we're looking at?
Well, Chief White brought up the idea of a small mill this morning, as a matter of fact.
So as you know, we also purchased a number of small mills. The problem is I just don't have enough staff to fight fire and run air curtain burners. So my thought is this another avenue? So we're looking at the air curtain burner as a partnership between CAL FIRE and the county. Is the mill a possible another partnership that we could look into? Because truly, this blue stained wood is beautiful wood. Once it's milled and you've sanded it, I think we need to start showing that off and start being able to produce some of this wood and let people see the qualities that it has. That the wood borers actually add. It's something, and there's, up in Arnold, there's some places that are selling it, and people are starting to recognize that it makes really pretty furniture. So here's an opportunity.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Why aren't we offering grants to private enterprise for these small mills and these curtain burners and this sort of thing?
Well, from CAL FIRE's perspective, we're putting out approximately $15 million in different grants between fire prevention as well as dealing with the tree mortality. I completely agree. I think that there just has to be other funding sources, the Small Business Administration, other entities out there to look at grant funding to be able to move into something like this. I think Calaveras County needs a mill. I would love to be able to try to participate and help out, at least two, and try to find those funding sources for that.
There's a lot of money flowing through CAL FIRE, and I don't think you guys have. You want to get into that business, the mill business, and curtain burning stuff? I know you guys have plenty to do already.
Right.
Yeah, so
we do. No, the reality, we don't want to get into the milling business, but what we want to do is be partners in carbon sequestration, because chipping it and burning it and even biomass, even though you get a benefit out of it, it's still a carbon release. And if we want greenhouse gas initiative, if we want carbon sequestration, this is it right here, milled lumber. This carbon is now sequestered. So this is the way for us to be a success and bringing jobs into our community and building a mill. We have the Stanislaus National Forest that generates 300 million board feet a year is grown on that forest.
But if you process it through a government entity, then what can you make off of it? All you're doing is using up taxpayer money. And if you're using it if you use it through private industry, then you have a market.
Right. I'm not trying to compete with private enterprise at all. No, I want to stay in the firefighting business. I don't know anything about the milling business. That's what I'm saying is I want to see a private mill come in, find the investors.
That'd be great.
And I have to say that the board is jumping ahead in my presentation tonight quite a bit. So you guys are definitely tracking.
I apologize.
I was going to cover this.
I'm wondering if CAL FIRE has the horsepower to help us go after Lehigh for the original cement site, because it seems to me like, it might be just something that they just don't quite understand. It was a monitoring issue, and I believe that's a beautiful site. It's got great roads, access. It's in a hole. It's not going to bother anybody. It was put there for a reason to begin with, at the beginning, and that would. I'll tell you what, that would be into the future a very great location. I can't think of another location, at least around here, and I don't know Mike's area or any other area, but it just seems like there's great opportunity there, and I don't think we pursued it quite as much as we could. Maybe get some help from legislators to go talk with these folks. And they're obviously afraid of something from the California environmental laws, and we might be able to help them out with that, just by public service, because that's what they'd be providing, really, a good public service, and helping us out to be able to handle these situations. For us to just kind of spot these logs everywhere is. On 15-acre plots, 15 acres is not going to be much when you're stacking a bunch of logs. You're going to get ate up real quick, and that's not a lot of space for anything. I've been looking, for places wherever we can, but we lost that industry a long time ago. They shut them all down, so. Now here we are trying to reinvent the wheel again, and there are only certain areas that are real suitable for this. I know Wallace Mill site, they're going through their process right now, that's a fairly good site, except the area around has changed. I think that they have a really good plan, and they have a fairly good amount of logs that they can process there while we're in the state of emergency anyhow. But this long-term look is only going to be achievable, I think, through a certain few sites, and I think that we need to just push real hard to try to achieve that particular site anyhow. Because that site there has, it is the answer for all what we're trying to do, and it'll have minimal investment to go into it, which is really important. So maybe you guys could.
I don't know if there's a question there, but
I'm asking you if you think that the Cal Fire has. Maybe we can team up if you want to team up and go and talk to legislators maybe, or find out why why Lehigh's having an issue with whatever they're afraid of, because I believe that it can be remedied.
Well, what did they say?
Well, when I spoke with Lehigh, actually, they were very supportive of the idea initially, and it wasn't until it reached a certain level with their council being concerned about something to do with monitoring. My guess would be Cal EPA rules and regulations for groundwater, and I actually spoke with my contact several times. As a matter of fact, I had the draft agreement on my desk for that particular site when that was pulled, and then of course they came to me and offered me the second site. So that was kind of their way of saying, we can't give you this, but we can give you this.
It sounds like I think Cliff is right in the sense that it is a really good site for an industrial.
Without a doubt. That was why it was our first choice.
Yeah, and it sounds like you kind of maybe got caught up in the problem of middle management in that company.
Actually, my understanding is it actually went to the president, and he actually was in favor of it as well. So that was my conversations with him, and that's why he sent me the draft agreement.
But remediation problem. Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying is, maybe if we kick it a little further, that might be a possibility, and I think that would be worth the effort.
Yeah, and maybe, but I think you're right. I think it would need to go above all of our heads in this room, to somebody with more juice.
Well, and I recognize that, but I also recognize that dealing with Cal EPA and other regulations, I can respect what they have to go through. What we need to do is identify the location and start working towards putting these in, because we're going to be into the winter within, God willing, short time.
Tomorrow.
I support that. So the sooner that we can come up with this location, and if we're dealing with environmental rules and regulations, and no offense, but maybe some attorneys as well, I'm concerned that it would be drug out for a long period of time.
Well, why don't we do both?
This area that we looked at with CCWD was really a nice opportunity. It's a nice level area that we were looking at, as well as the fact, and I recognize that I hope our intent is not to build giant log decks. I'm not looking for anything massive. My thought is a sorting yard where it comes in, we're able to pull out the coal logs and get the good logs back on the road for shipment, for distribution.
What's the zoning out there?
It's a split zoning. It's industrial and some other sort of industrial. I don't remember. I apologize for that. But it's actually a split zoning.
It says in here probably.
But actually, like I said, when I was looking at it for a shelter site, so that's not an issue. Again, I agree with Chief White that it's a sound site and a solid site. And actually, I was more impressed with it when I went out there today and actually walked it. I figured maybe it just kind of dropped off, after from where it was level, and just dropped off, and it really doesn't. And we could actually put the equipment further out. Also, I agree with the fact that really the idea is not to have large log decks at this site. My conversations with Cal Waste, because they're looking, and I'll cover that in a few minutes, but they too are looking at sites. Pardon me?
I mean,
well, the idea is really it's more expensive when you think about it. It's more expensive, especially for a private contractor to go up, pick up logs, deliver them, pick them up again, and take them somewhere else. It's smarter to put them on the truck, on Highway 26 or Highway 4 and move them to the mill or move them to the cogen plant or wherever they're going to take them, or move them to a site where they're going to chip them and they're going to sell the chips. So that's what makes the most sense. Really, this site is really more designed for public right-of-way, county right-of-way, possible if private wanted to use it in terms of having trees removed off of their property, that kind of thing. I see this as a big enough game that if Cal Waste, as an example, wants to put in a facility at Toyon like they're talking about, that there's still going to be more than enough work. They're working with PG&E and their contractors. So really, there's probably more wood to go around than we have space for. But the idea would not be to take every single log off the forest and bring it to San Andreas. The idea would be to take the stuff that we know we can stack temporarily, and then it can be marketed out, and or slash that can be burned, or the material that can be chipped and then recycled. So, keeping in mind, this is just a piece of the solution, the puzzle for the solution. So,
yeah, keep in mind also, who's going to bear the cost?
Actually,
getting the logs from the down sites to this location.
For the public right-of-way, it will be the county.
Let's talk about the private landowners. Tree mortality.
Well, as far as private landowners, there's a couple of options. One is there's funding that is available through CAL FIRE to the fire safe councils, as well as local fire districts, who can go on private property and take some of those private trees off. The other issue is, of course, a big player in this is Caltrans. The other big player in this is PG&E. And my understanding is PG&E is cutting a lot of lumber, a lot of trees up on 4 right now, and probably 26 as well, which is very, very good. Matter of fact, I spoke with a gentleman yesterday about this. But that has been the big issue at the State Tree Mortality Task Force, as you're well aware. What do we do with all the private lands and the monies for that? So CAL FIRE has some solution to that, and part of the solution to that. But I believe that you are aware of something that might be another option for private. Is that true?
We were just notified today that there's another $10 million addressing the private property tree mortality removal. That's our problem up in my district right now. I've got trees on the ground 15, 20 feet high stacked up on private property, and that's where they fell.
Yeah.
Now I got to get them out of there, and we can't even get people to transport them.
Right.
Because our resources are so stretched, so thin.
Right.
We have fire season coming up, and we have winter coming up. And not all the dead trees are down. So we need to start looking for places to put these trees.
We agree.
But
I share your pain.
What we're hearing from, clarify, is that these two sites you're looking at here are not really meant for those trees to be moved down there. So we need to be looking at either a larger site or we're just going to punt on that. I mean, what's the plan?
Well, again, this site could be used by logs coming down off of private property. There's nothing to say that it can't be, and they can't be stacked, and they can't be decked, and they can't be sold. They can't be milled, if that's even a possibility, and it can't be taken and used for something else.
So are these sites large enough to do that?
Well, the Lehigh site unfortunately is not as flat as the CCWD site. The Lehigh site is about 150 acres. The CCWD site is 15 acres, and I think it's probably enough room for what we want to do. But keeping in mind, this is not going to, you're not going to bring all the trees in at one time. This is going to be several years we're going to be processing.
But the Lehigh site is larger area overall.
It's a larger area overall, but less usable.
Less than 15 acres? Or?
I would say less than 15.
Yeah, it's much less than 15 acres.
So it's just one
Correct.
looks like an old housing site.
Yep.
Kind of
Correct.
There, and the rest of it is that hill
Right.
behind.
That was a shale test pit that they're closing out right now as a mine site, but it was really a shale test pit.
So there's only a few acres that are usable.
That are really usable, unfortunately.
I think the bottom line is, we have an alternate site to consider. We know we're going to need more than one site. So we're still on the hunt for more, correct?
Well, I can't say that we're going to be looking for other large sites. I don't know.
We could give you that direction, though.
Yes, you can, and certainly, certainly, like I stated before, we need to look for sites on 12 and 26 as well, because, that's just, and excuse me, 4 and 26. Thank you, and stuck there in Valley Springs. And so, it's a big project. If you drive up Highway 108 right now and you're in the Twain-Hart area, they have large areas where they're just stacking the logs before they take them
We
down.
have
to
about
Chinese town.
18 areas to log deck.
I believe it.
And this is through the task force once again.
Yeah.
And Calaveras County has 2.
Right.
And those are prospective sites.
Right.
So we need to find somewhere where we can at least deck these logs.
We agree. We absolutely agree. And we know that, unfortunately, this thing is moving so fast on us, this tree mortality. They said last year we were talking about it being a slow-motion disaster because we were dealing with the fire. No, it's quickly speeding up. And once again, I realize that I'm bringing this to you a little bit early. I don't have some numbers together that I would have liked to have had together for this presentation, but I really don't feel that I can wait to really request the board direction. I think I really need direction from the board. So,
and Mr. Moss, I appreciate your efforts. We worked on this project together.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to take a shot at you.
Understood.
I just need to have the public realize how important this is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So there is another site that I was just informed of today.
Okay.
And that's at SASD.
Mm-hmm.
They have about 120 acres that they have that they would use for potential spray field.
Right.
But they don't use it right now because it's into the future. But they have also one entrance for sure, off of Coal Strike, but there's another entrance that would go across a piece of property, if possible, directly from Highway 49. So that's a possibility too.
We can certainly look at that. I actually thought about that site. I didn't go out to that site only because I've been on that site in the past, and it's not. There's a kind of a draw there that would probably work. We're looking for the level land, but I haven't. To be fair, I haven't been on that site for some time, and there may be a lot more level space that I'm aware of. We're happy to look into it. Happy to look into that. So moving forward with this. It should be noted that the CAL FIRE equipment can only be used and operated by the county and or state and not private enterprise. I checked into that because I was talking to private enterprise, and they were talking about kind of what Supervisor Edson brought up about grants and use of equipment and that kind of thing. I told you, see, you guys are jumping ahead of me tonight. So, again, we spoke with Cal Waste, talking about developing a separate facility. They were going to build a transfer station, I think the board might remember, to deal with the ash and debris for the debris removal. Mr. Bateser and Environmental Management were very effective and efficient and quick in removing that material. So that, coupled with the fact that it was winter, that wasn't up and running. So I think that is a site that is available too, but that would be private enterprise. And that facility would likely serve clients similar to what Wallace is serving right now.
Why is that private enterprise?
Because that'd be a Cal Waste site. It would be they would call it a transfer station, or they would call it a shipping facility or what have you. So
how many acres is that?
I don't know how many acres that is.
Dave? 8 acres?
So
There's a 21-acre site right back of it.
Yes, and it's nice and flat out there. So that also is something, and at the time I didn't know about what Josh brought up this morning about micro mill, but on a larger scale micro mill, Dave and I had that conversation and said, well, the blue stained wood that Chief White was discussing, I said, maybe there might be a market for that. So I know that Mr. Baccarazzo was going to look into that. So we talked about that.
What I was saying is behind it, behind
right.
that site.
I understand.
It's a 21-acre site that was,
right.
It was some company out of San Mateo was interested in doing a data center there.
I remember that.
They didn't want to do it.
I remember that.
Costs,
yeah.
I don't think they're using it for anything. So, and it's a very flat, good area. It would be probably a good, that's a pretty good sized site there, and it has good access.
Okay. We can look at that as well.
Unless I'm mistaken, doesn't Cal Waste have their own grinders, tub grinders already? Dave?
Yeah.
I know you're back there. Did you say yes?
He said yes.
So he's ready to rock, really.
Yes, he is. So, again, I can't overemphasize the partnership aspect of this between CAL FIRE. If as example, and CCWD is going to be involved either way, but if the board chooses to pursue the CCWD site as an example, I can't overemphasize the partnership between the district, the county, and CAL FIRE. Okay, because district has dead trees, we have dead trees. CAL FIRE's got their issues. They want those dead trees out of there because of fire potential, et cetera. So, again, what I'm looking for from the board tonight is some direction as what you would like us to pursue. We have 2 viable sites that we know we can move on. At this point, again, looking to see what the direction of the board is. I'm hearing about Toyon, and I'm also hearing about SASD. We can certainly look at those sites as well, but I also can't overemphasize the urgency of moving forward.
Well, I also think that you should work with both me and Mike to identify
Absolutely.
Properties in our districts that
Absolutely.
That could be closer to the
Absolutely, and because we're going to need those sites.
Yeah, and so I think that if the board would be willing to back me in that direction.
There's also a site, just to back that up. My understanding is that CCWD has a site off of Associated Office that might be usable for that, and I think that's being looked into as well.
I'm going to concur with Supervisor Wright.
Right.
Work with my supervisors sitting on both sides of me. They've both invested a lot of time into understanding this issue. But I do think, and first off, thank you for bringing this forward early
Absolutely.
rather than late. But I think we need more than 2 sites.
Okay.
I would really stress that fact. I've been up in the tall country and seen what's going on, and there's a lot that's going to be coming down the hill.
Would you like us to continue to talk with CCWD?
That's my opinion. You should, and also facilitate anything that Cal Waste needs at Toyon
Right.
To get them going. He's already done some work on what you can do with mulch.
Right.
I'll let him expand on that. But I think even at those, my feeling is if you've got 2 sites that are ready to go, lock those in. But I think you're probably going to need 6 to 10 sites or something of that nature.
We're going to need, you're absolutely correct, you're going to need smaller sites along the highways, and then again, I think I can't overemphasize like the site we looked at today for public right-of-way and that kind of thing. And then also I'm sure there's more than enough room for Cal Waste site as far as contracts and things that are going on a separate nature, because they work with contracts that maybe deal with PG&E and things like that. And PG&E is very active right now, taking a lot of trees out.
Yeah, they are.
So, which is good. So some things are happening. We just want them to happen faster.
I would concur.
I would like to see a couple more sites brought up.
Okay.
It's just weird to me that the only 2 sites that we can find are right. One is by a school.
Right.
And one is in town.
Right.
Strange. The one by the school, there's wind there all the time.
Right.
24 hours a day. It's windy. And it swirls around in there quite a bit. So a curtain burner down there would be probably a challenge. The wind stops when you climb over the crest there and get down into the original cement plant. It stops. But I tell you, I have spent many evenings out there in that area, and it's always windy. So that whole valley area there, from 49 down into George Reed, and they have. It's not so bad over there where CCWD is, but on the other side, it's not a real good spot, in my opinion. So I think that the deal is you're trying to take this on over yourself mostly, and you're stretched. And I think that we just need some support so that we could cover a larger area and quicker. And it's pretty impossible for you to do that by yourself.
Yeah, and we're also working on that. I should inform the board, since we're talking about tree mortality, that I did actually, with the assistance of CAL FIRE, and then my edits, send in a draft work plan to Cal OES for review. So we're waiting for that to come back as well. That's part of the CDAA application that we sent in, and that's a key point. So I'm also working on a request for proposal, as directed by the board, I believe, last week, for bringing on a person to head up or manage this project. They wouldn't be doing hands-on work necessarily, but they would be helping with working with our auditor controller, certainly our office, with Public Works, others that are involved, and certainly making sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, okay, for CDAA funding. I've written the RFP in such a manner, in its draft form, that should we get a federal declaration, it'll cover that as well, and we meet those requirements as well. So as we well know, Supervisor Oliver and Supervisor Wright can tell you as well that the statewide tree mortality task force is looking at the western states even as a federal declaration, which would have even more horsepower than California. So those are the things that we're working on. I think it's very important for the public to know, because we see these trees dying very, very quickly. They need to know that indeed we are taking action, that we are out there doing what we can to certainly get this program up and going. And I again, hats off to CAL FIRE. They've been invaluable up to this, just getting us to this point.
So my opinion on that position, it's pretty late for that. Most of those folks are busy and working. Is there another solution?
I would look to the board for any proposed solutions on that. We talked about initially bringing in an extra hire. The board approved 960 hours. I think it was 960 hours for extra hire this year. Then we decided to actually look for a forester. Unfortunately, that individual was no longer available to take the position because he'd taken other positions. So with that said, there's money in the budget for an extra hire position. I think we rated it as an engineer, equivalent of an engineer A-step or something along those lines.
So we could do a kind of a short term.
We could.
Do that in the short term and then do something bigger, in the months to come.
That's an option.
I'm just waiting for you to bring up the rest of it.
I was going to let you bring that up.
So, Director Grovitz had come up with, I thought was a fairly decent idea and to consider, and that was that he could take on the tree mortality issue and let Robert Packinger step into the position that he's in and put him on that for a limited term basis, and then build a little team, because it's going to be big. It's going to be a big thing, and you're going to need dedicated folks to it. You still have the control within the county, which would be really cool to be able to manage it the way we need to manage it. And I believe he's got the energy for it. I got to tell you, because he's really energetic, as we all know. And so that would actually come up with some kind of a solution, but I don't know the inner workings of the deal. So.
Right, and I would actually leave that to Jeff to explain. But again, what I can tell you is that we do have some money in the budget for an extra hire today. If you would like us to, and I absolutely agree with the board and certainly Supervisor Edson on the fact that we need to bring somebody in right now. It would be very helpful if we could go out and we could bring somebody in to work towards either that goal or just to work and start heading up the project as a bridge to wherever we're going on dealing with this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm game for whatever avenue anybody wants to explore, but I do like the idea, like you said, if there's money in the budget already, I'm not sure, and I guess that's how you interpreted it or whatever.
Right.
So we say a lot of confusing things sometimes, so I don't want to blame you. But if we can do an extra hire to bring in somebody to assist with you on this, initial stage here, to me that would be a no-brainer. Let's go call that person up tomorrow and see if they can help, because obviously we're trying to do better.
how would the board feel about us moving forward with our proposal and contacting an individual to come in and assist? I'm not sure if somebody's available, but we had somebody in mind. And then they could assist me in, again, identifying the sites and bringing this back to the board as soon as we can.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm still willing to explore Director Krovitz's idea because he's here, and I think that the good thing is he has some knowledge of the system, so I'm willing to entertain that as well.
Okay, that person could assist with that as well.
Because the other thing, we need more than one. Well, yeah, I understand, but then he would be able to identify that actually. So the thing is, are we going to get into a point to where these positions are going to be in some type of reimbursement or a portion of?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
that's the idea, that they will be 75% reimbursed. If we're lucky enough to get a federal declaration, it'll be 6 1/4.
So do you think I know we are off subject because we need to get back onto the site, okay?
Exactly.
But I'd like to maybe have a presentation by Director Krovitz on his idea, the next meeting maybe, if it's possible, so that we can hear what he has to say.
But you should bring on the person now for that we've already approved the budget, correct?
I mean, I feel like if we take someone from Public Works, that's going to leave a huge void there. So I don't know how that's going to be replaced. We talked about this is in the budget and we have some monies and hours allocated to it. I'd be putting that signal out tomorrow morning. I mean, that's already kind of been board approved in regards to the budget. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I would say if he wants to do that, that's fine, but I don't think we can give direction because it's not part of this item, and we're
That's right.
sort
By
of
the way, that
going
signal's been out for quite a few months, actually.
But I think you got some direction there anyway from the 3 board members.
Sounds good. We will pursue an individual as extra hire, and we will continue to pursue additional sites. And Mr. Krovitz can schedule a study session or an agenda item with the board.
But I think Cliff's idea is really interesting. I
Right.
don't really know how it would work exactly, but it's not my idea, or whoever's. Yeah.
So, but I just think it makes sense. Anyhow, as far as these sites go,
Yes, sir.
I think the Lehigh site is just not that good of an idea. It's not that big to begin with, and you're gonna have to do some road work on the way in because it's not really accessible. This other site, CCWD site, as much as I like to partner up with CCWD, I think that if we can find something that's a little bit more amendable to away from the middle of town, it would be a little bit better for us overall, because there's going to be some circulation issues through there as well. So, there's a couple of sites that we just talked about. Maybe after we look at those sites and we run out, then then I'd be willing to discuss them at that point.
Okay, we can look at those additional sites. Just one last comment on the CCWD site. We talked about this morning. We would make it a one-way road. They'd come up George Reed Drive. They'd go up through the 1920s highway easement. They'd go in, and they'd come back out, and we'd post a right turn sign only.
Come back out where?
They would come back out onto the highway. So
I know where that is.
you know where that is, yeah. But they could only take a right, because that's where we've had lots of accidents. That's a very bad. That's really a bad.
The last person that took a right there that got in an accident died.
Yeah, and the people that take a left have had problems too. So, okay, we will look at sites, and we will look at bringing somebody in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moss.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 6 is from the Board of Supervisors to approve and authorize the board chair to sign the attached response to...
You know what? We forgot public comment. This was an actionable item, right? Yeah, so we need to have public comments on it. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I may be wrong, but we have a timber industry in our county, or in the Sierras. It's not completely dead. How come we're not talking to them? You think that this timber would have some value. We're talking about massive operation. They have the capability, or at least they used to, of moving a lot of logs. Shouldn't they be looking for the sites to create the slash and chip the slash and then haul the logs to the mills? Doesn't that make sense?
I can address that, and Al is absolutely correct. SPI has also been a partner with us. They are pulling so much timber off of the rimfire and the tree kill in Tuolumne County. I think it leaves them only 20% left of their mill site for their regular functions. So they're very well saturated. I'm not saying that they won't take the material. Mr. Tate stated very clearly in the town hall meeting that we had in Supervisor Oliveira's district that the reality is with this wood is that for somebody to pick it up and bring it to SPI, they're just covering the cost of their fuel, which is very unfortunate because, again, the market is saturated. So I'm glad you brought that up because that is important. Yes, indeed. We have been speaking with them as well.
My name is Peter Race from the 5th District of Jenny Lynn. Thank you, folks. And I like the idea of the private-public partnership, finally, okay? The lumber industry is big to this county. It's not a nice thing to say, but we should take advantage and make it worthwhile to your constituents also. Surplus, I agree. That's supply and demand is not going to be big, but I believe this whole bug eating up the whole damn forest is going to be a long-term project. And saying that, I would like to you folks consider hiring a project manager, not somebody who works for necessarily a county, because all the folks in the county right now are working their butt off. And they got enough projects going all over the place. But a couple of you guys can maybe talk to HR. Look for a project manager, a professional that's his specialty, is not in a turf war, not in an ego trip, just to make money for the constituents in here, for jobs, whatever you want to call it. Okay, not to bail any other agencies out of a hole. The CCWDs already have invested their constituents' money in a couple of water outlets, water hookups, I believe. It's a commercial one, and if it gets downgraded, you know who's going to get the shaft on it? Us. Okay? But That's not been mentioned, okay? It's a commercial zone, it's in a good spot. Let's get somebody, a professional, and not that, all the good intention, I respect every one of you guys on this. Good intention. But putting it bluntly, from perspective in the backstage, folks, I don't trust the state to start with, okay? But not too many people in this room know what the hell is going on. You can guess, we can look, and so on. Let's get the professional project engineer. If you have to have somebody interim, get things going, fine. We got a couple of good people over here, I trust. But you need a project in because it's going to take a long time to get through this whole mess we have over here. Thank you.
So, Peter?
Yes, sir.
I'll just tell you that pretty sure we missed the boat on that one. I requested that quite a while ago. Things move fast. So people that are with that skill, especially now, they're not going to wait around and wait for an opening because they have 10 other groups out there, 10 other folks out there that want to hire them. And so far, it's very hard to find. It's like we're saturated with the wood, or the lumber now, or the logs, which means there's a whole bunch of people out there working, and it's pretty hard to find the people that are available when a bunch of people are working.
Folks, that's why you're making the big money. Solve the problem.
That's right. That's what.
No excuses.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Bill McManus, Hanford Hill. It's too bad that I know it's going to take care of a small percentage of it, but it can help a lot of people in the county. If when the bug trees are staged someplace that there's a landing where the public can get in and cut firewood. Not everyone burns pine all the time. If there's oak wood or something like that from the butte fire, that's all value. That's a valuable commodity for people. You can't afford to buy oak a lot of times. So, and then to maybe get into discussions with BLM, Department of the Interior, Forest Service, all that. For instance, where I live, I butt up against my neighbor is, I think it's Department of the Interior. There's a whole reef of dead trees right off my property that's on federal land. The rules right now are you can't cut in the forest unless it's dead and down. And so maybe the Forest Service or the government or through our congressman can take a look at that in this area of maybe suspending that and allow people to go in and take down dead trees. Because, and maybe suspend the permit fee for it, because people could get a lot of benefit out of it. And it's going to take some trees out of the forest, especially the ones that are close that you can get to. Even the partnerships with private business, there's one that's really pretty cool. That's up Gene Miller. He gets trees from Calaveras Big Trees, which is a state park. They haul them down to his location. He cuts them up, splits them, puts them in a bag, sends them back to Calaveras Big Trees, where the Big Tree Society buys the wood and then marks it up and sells to the campers. So it seems to be kind of a closed loop of, state, federal, private people, and that continuous loop just keeps processing wood and generating money, for the trees. Now, I don't know about the large quantity and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't fully explained to me where I could understand that not too long ago you guys popped for $500,000 for this tub grinder, and then we found out from Chief White that if the material was ground, it would burn quicker and more efficiently in the flame curtain incinerator instead of putting big chunks of wood into it.
30 seconds.
So is the tub grinder still in use? What's it grinding? And is that something that could be incorporated into reducing some of this material so that it's more efficiently burned or more quickly burned, if that's what you want to do with it? I know there's way too much wood out there for people to take off the forest to burn to heat their homes in the wintertime. But it could make a dent, and it could be a big savings for a lot of people in the county. Thank you.
I think a number of the things you were talking about, Bill, were in his presentation, or Mr. Moss's presentation, like trying to get a log deck access where people could cut up firewood. He's exploring that idea. The air curtain burner, yes, we did buy a tub grinder, and it's long been a push me, pull you joke, sort of, so to speak, between the Public Works Director and I. It can be used to bark up the trees and grind them down. The air curtain burner requires a mixture to get it going, and Jeff is probably going to have that mixture down a little better than I do, but I still know quite a bit about it, where you can't just put the logs in there and they go up. There are other things that go with it. So that's why I was questioning, making sure it's not the only approach to getting rid of these, because it could never handle the volume that's coming down.
Right, and maybe it's a combination of like the slash, which you have to burn on anyway, and you don't want to do that out in open air on hillsides. If slash can be reduced and used as an accelerant or whatever, kindling, to get the other stuff to burn, I don't know.
But Chief White was even noting that originally their idea with the air curtain burner was the limbs and smaller pieces of wood, but we've got, Paul Bunyan-sized trees coming down now.
Yeah, and if you don't do something with the wood, in 2 years, all that wood is going to be mush anyway.
You're right.
So, like I say, if the public could get some benefit with their labor to go out and get firewood, that would be great. If you could incorporate like the conservation crews that cleared the timber in Calaveras Big Tree State Park, they can help out, and you can even have a tiered thing where people can either pick it up in rounds for a certain price and split it at home, or you could have it split on site and people could just buy firewood. Not so much to the point where you start competing with other people who cut split firewood and try to sell it for a living, but there is a market out there, and if it was affordable, I think people will take advantage of it. Because sometimes it's hard to get wood deliveries in the wintertime. So
I think that's part of his research right now.
Yeah, I know it doesn't take a lot of the material out of the forest, but nothing you come up with is going to take a lot of material out of the forest. The only thing that's going to take a lot of material out of the forest is a catastrophic forest fire. Then it goes away like it's supposed to. So, but it's too late for that.
Thank you. So another thing I'm hearing is that we have a lot of discussion, I think, and I'd like to probably put together maybe some study session around this so that we can actually talk about everything we want to talk about. If you think that's a decent idea.
I would reiterate and state that I'd recommend that the Public Works Director bring forward an item for the board to consider around the idea that you were discussing and that he was proposing, certainly. But in the meantime, we will move forward.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. It's a good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6, from the Board of Supervisors to approve and authorize the board chair to sign the attached response to the fiscal year 2015-16 grand jury report.
As you know, the grand jury report came out, and per California Penal Code, the board needs to respond by September 8th, and there's a specific way that the board needs to respond. So I drafted those responses. I sent them out to the board a few weeks ago, asking for comments back. I did not receive any comments back, so I'm asking the board to approve the responses and authorize the board chair to sign a letter to the Honorable Judge Timothy Healy, who in response to the grand jury report.
Okay. Any comments from the board here? No. We'll do the public first. Any comments from the public?
I'm Peter Race from General Lane of the 5th District. Is there a deadline you have to respond to? Is there a certain time that you got to be answering this thing?
As it said in the report, and what I just said, September 8th.
I'm sorry. Am I addressing the chair?
September 8th.
She was at.
She was at
September 8th.
Now that was
Oh, I'm receiving comments. Kindness on, yes, definitely. Because it would be nice to talk about some of those things that we talked about before, and I'd like to hear your comments publicly responding some of these. And just sign off of it. Do you all agree to respond? Because some of these items need to be addressed strongly. And if you all agree with it, that's fine. That's a direct reflection on each and every one of the 5 of you, because you 5 are the only ones that are accountable on this. Nobody else in this room. And I would love to hear your response to what the grand jury said over here. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments?
Marty Crane, Valley Springs. I think this is the response from the board. They wouldn't be bringing it here if it wasn't their response. And thank you, Shirley. Appreciate it when a question is asked, if you answer it, whoever has the answer. Thank you.
House Government Taxpayer Association, if the response is not overly lengthy, maybe that could be read now, and then we'll know what that response is.
It's attached to the staff report, and it's been posted online since Wednesday. Also, the board has had a number of weeks to review it and put forth any comments or changes that they could have requested.
By the way, I appreciate you giving us
the time. I can't write better than her. She does a good job. So, any other public comments? No? Board comments?
We have had this for a while, and if I've read it, I mean, the 2 things that concern me most were the staffing at the jail and the staffing of the animal service officer, and I've had conversations with HR on both of these now, so it's I've looked into the comments, and the other board members have had this long enough to do the same if they so choose to do that. So it has been with us for a while, Mr. Williams.
Okay. Any other comments before I do my comments? All right, so I'm not sure, I'm sure there's reasons, but, we have a hospital right over here, and it would be really great to have some kind of an agreement with them, whatever the reasons why we don't. Have been involved in that, but you would think that we could figure something out there for our medical services for our local jail. And I did bring up last week, which could rectify one of these issues, and that's the animal services one. And I believe that there is justification around the ordinance, the cannabis ordinance, to be able to put somebody that can inspect to make sure that the animals that are out there are being properly taken care of under inspection, so that like mostly what we hear are dogs that are running loose or dogs that are within the sites, mostly pit bulls, and I think it's a critical part of managing the ordinance to make sure that if they're compliant or not, or if they're compliant or non-compliant, or if they're legal or not legal, if they get inspected, they should be inspected also if they have animals. That also should be an inspection to make sure that the animals are properly handled. And that could be a solution for part of this, because from what I understand, that duty is being spread to a couple of different staff members, not just animal services, but also health, or also environmental health. And so that could not only help sheriff, could alleviate a problem that could be going on, but also could free up some other folks to do their job just by having the proper folks do the proper inspection. And it could be paid for, in my opinion, by the registration fee, because there's a great number of dogs that are up in that area, and if if it's a business, then they need to make sure that they're properly taking care of their animals.
If I can respond, the responses to the grand jury were based on facts in the response. Not having heard any different from the board members, I assumed that this was the response that the board wanted to make. As far as when the RFP was sent out, the hospital every time has had the opportunity to submit a proposal for the jail and has chosen not to because of the stringent requirements that are required by the state. As far as the animal services officer being funded with the cannabis registration fee, I consulted with county council and was informed that that would not be an allowable cost under the registration fees. So the answers to the responses to the grand jury report are based in what we can or can, based on facts that were put forth.
Okay. Well, I'm not disputing your response, actually. I think you did a good job on it, and I'm just saying that there are solutions that we should be looking at. But as far as responding, this is what we have right now. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Okay.
Item 7 is from the Board of Supervisors to provide direction regarding the possible allocation of a board public information officer / administrative assistant position.
During the board meeting, during board announcements of the meeting of the 26th, Supervisor Kearney raised the issue of allocated position for public information officer. I believe Supervisor Wright had expressed concerns about one for administrative assistant for board members. The board was in agreement that the issue should be placed on the future agenda for board discussion and to provide staff direction. Some of the key areas I worked with both HR and county council that the board would have to provide direction on, and we hope to caution the board on, is basically what do you want the title to be, a PIO, public information officer, or an administrative assistant. If it is a PIO, then the job description and salary range will need to be developed, and that will be HR working through the job description and comparing that salary to other counties. The question will be who will supervise and direct the day-to-day operations and assignments of this position. Currently, the only positions that report directly to the board are the administrative officer and the county council. Again, how will the board directly supervise this position when the board can only act as a whole and in public session? If this position reports to the chair and the vice chair, what happens if they are in disagreement or have differing perspectives on issues? What happens if their opinions or perspectives on an issue differ from the remainder of the board? How will this position explain to constituents why the board voted a certain way on an issue, which is what I believe Supervisor Kearney was hoping would happen without discussing with each individual supervisor, and therefore it becomes a serial meeting? Who will hire this position? Again, based on county code, the board only hires appointed department heads. If this position is an administrative position, how will the duties and time be allocated among board members? Will this require a part-time position for each board member versus a single position? If it's a single position working for all board members, a single position working for all board members has the potential for Brown Act violations, as this position could intentionally or unintentionally discuss issues and share opinions between board members. And where will this position reside? We were trying to outline issues that the board would want to discuss and questions that needed to be addressed.
Was it you who brought it up originally, or was it all?
Actually, it was Supervisor Kearney. It was Supervisor Kearney that mentioned public information officer, and Supervisor Wright, you mentioned the administrative assistant.
Oh, yeah, I know I brought mine up.
It was me that brought up the public information
My
officer.
mistake,
I realize that with the budget constraints we have, putting an administrative assistant on each supervisor's payroll would be great, but it's not going to happen.
Hold on,
Well, okay, then let me wait till you tell us how you foresee it. I'll just talk about my part of this, okay? So, go back, and the jury needs to disregard what I just said for the last 60 seconds. But my thing was to create a public information officer that regularly relates to the public what's going on up here. In this stack of mail I just went through today, I have a letter from a constituent asking us why we approved the Barden-Stevenow measure that we put on the ballot. And it's because they do not understand often what happens here. And to me, we need to be able to explain that, or someone needs to give them a factual explanation of it. Because that's not the only time. There have been time and time again, the actions we take on the board, it's sort of like when you're a youngster and you go to a birthday party and sit in a circle and you give a secret to the first person. By the time it gets around to the end, it's nothing like what originally came out. And I believe we need somebody who more than likely works with the board chair and puts out information about what went on at the board meetings. And it's as factual, and to me, you're going to have to put the confidence in whoever the chair is to put a factual report on there. And I'm sure that if it were to go a little bit south on that the other board members would let them know about it, and it wouldn't happen in the future. And that's what I brought up. Now, how could they be hired? I don't believe that the Board of Supervisors is hiring anybody that I'm aware of. It would have to come from HR, but I still would like that person to respond to the board so that we can put the information out that is evolving from us, because they're not getting the correct info. Some of the other issues, would it be a single person working? In my mind, it is. Supervisor Wright is going to add to that. But he's envisioning an administrative assistant for all of us, and I can tell you there's not a board member up here who wouldn't jump up and down and be thankful for that, and so I'm going to let him expand on that.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Crane? Well, my suggestion, in my almost 4 years now, just seeing how other counties do things, and seeing that there's some counties that have a lot bigger budget that have huge staffs. Each individual supervisor has like a team of 11 people out there, that are directly underneath their direction. So, and I heard Supervisor Kearney's explanation of his idea, and I think that's an interesting idea. But I'm not sure that's exactly. I haven't seen if other counties have done it that way or not. I haven't seen that. So what I would suggest is we direct staff to look at what other counties have done, both on the small rural county like the RCRC, talk to those guys, talk to CSAC, for some of the other ideas out there, and really get a feeling for what other people, what other counties have done, and bring it back to us as an update of like, these are some options of how you can get more supervisor support. Because basically, we're moving, it used to be when there's 12,000 people in the county. I love that stat. I don't know if it gets stuck in my head. It's like 1975 or something. But, when there was 12,000 people in the county, we didn't need staff, to do our job. But now we've moved into the modern age. There's a lot of, as we've witnessed every day, a lot of complex problems. And people are dealing with these complex problems. Life is getting more complex every day. And we need, as supervisors, any supervisor coming in, needs more support. And so that's what I'm looking at, is how to get to that support. What have other counties done? Let's have Mary Rose or somebody like that call around and really get an idea of what, really do a more thorough study of what other counties have done besides just kind of our, what we've gleaned in our travels. So that's my suggestion.
Okay. When I first got on the board, actually felt like we had a little bit more staff support, and Diane was it. And at that time, Diane was working over at the clerk recorder's office, and so we would go there, and I would be able to go to her and discuss any issues with her, and she would handle it, and so she helped me out tremendously.
Oh yeah, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, and so the other, but as far as PIO goes, we're in a situation right now where the public is demanding more and more information all the time. A good example is this latest fire. So during this fire, I didn't get any information on it until 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the fire was almost out. And so except for Josh White was giving me about 15-minute intervals right from 1:47. He was doing a good job. Shirley came up right around, I don't know what time you got up there, but
I was here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was here when the fire broke out.
So Shirley was here, and I got an email from her, and then the next thing I heard was, the report that the Red Cross site was open. But the information that people were expecting was, hey, is Mountain Ranch Road open or closed? Because there was a bunch of people coming home from something and they didn't know. There's different avenues to receive information out there, but from the county is where it needs to come. That's the official communications place that people look to. So I got most of my information actually off of Channel 3. That was kind of helpful because they were flying over it, and that was that was really helpful. But so like today we heard about the structure that got burnt, and then half the structure or part of the structure or whatever. I heard rumors. I heard one lady say there was 12 houses burned, and so that stuff goes wild out there in our public, and people get confused. And then there's the folks that want to help and they want to volunteer. We had probably 15 trailers out in the back of the town hall that was ready to haul a bunch of animals, evacuation and things going on. So it was just, people are skittish right now because of Butte Fire, and it's scary for a lot of people. And I think that a PIO is something that our county needs to put out real, correct information, and as often as we can. A lot of times we can't put it out right away because we aren't getting correct information right away. But if we had that network in place, maybe we can get it out a little quicker and a little bit more accurate. And the same thing happened during the Butte Fire. We just weren't able to do that for quite a while. And Supervisor Kearney did a really good job for the first 3 or 4 days. And then, once we kicked in, of course, that was a huge, you got to understand that was a huge effort by everybody. So, it's nobody's fault. It's just that I think that we need to take that information and improve on, some of the things that we could do better. And I believe that if we have in today's world, a PIO for a county, I think is just pretty darn necessary. And they need to work well with all Sheriff's Office, the Board of Supervisors, and administration equally. It needs to be able to work well with all of them. So that's my opinion. Okay. So I know we have a porter position right now, right, in admin? Isn't that?
It's part-time as needed, and it was under brought in under the Butte Fire. She comes in as needed. When the fire first started on Sunday, the information that I was getting was intermittent from the Sheriff's Office. In fact, when I walked up to the top of the hill, you had more information than I did, Supervisor Edson, at that point in time.
Well, I know you didn't get the information either.
And the Sheriff's Office is usually, and CAL FIRE are working to deal with the emergency at hand, and can only get that information out to us as quickly as they have the opportunity to, because they have trying to deal with the emergency. That being said, I just need to know from direction from the board whether you want a PIO, whether you want to go out and see what other counties do regarding administrative assistant, and where that PIO is going to reside, whether it's going to be a full-time position or a part-time position, and who will direct the daily activities of the person. That's the issue we have before us.
Well, right now, I'd like to go back even to what we had before, because
I got a question on that. Do you know how the counties do the PIO? It would seem like it wouldn't be under the board usually.
No, it's usually, I believe it's under the administrative office, or in case of emergency, OES in the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'd like to see. Under OES would be good.
And they do have, as I recall, both from Butte Fire and the fact that a press release was issued out of OES, they do have somebody that acts as a PIO during the emergencies.
Judy Hawkins, Human Resources Director. I did a rather, it wasn't a full formal survey, but I did a close informal survey. And the PIO in everyone that I talked to in both small and larger counties, it's located in the administrative office.
And were you able to check on like the admin staff positions and that type of thing?
I have been looking at different admin staff positions, and we did do a survey on where different things are located.
Yeah, how about, as far as the direct supervisor support is what I'm looking for here.
Well, one of the things that we did find is, of course, large counties, yes, the supervisors typically have one person that for each one of the supervisors. In smaller counties, typically the administrative staff that assists the supervisors is located either in the administrative office, or if it's the clerk of the board may be located in the clerk recorder's office. And so we found when we did the survey, it was split. Actually, it was located in the surveys of the counties that are of like size. It was in the CAO's office more than anywhere else. But we didn't find that the supervisors would have one person, like a PIO, that they shared. They would report directly to a CAO or a clerk recorder.
Right, that makes sense. But as far as the administrative staff for the supervisors, would they have the supervisors would have offices and they have one admin staff that would help the supervisors, or or nothing, or?
Typically, it would just be the clerk of the board for a smaller county. For larger counties, each supervisor in their office would have one or more staff members that would assist them.
Surrounding counties compare with Amador and Tuolumne County?
They just have, Tuolumne has a clerk of the board who is in the administrative office. They don't, the supervisors don't have other.
What about Amador? How do they do that?
And Amador, I believe, just, Amador has a clerk of the board, and which is within the CAS office.
And they each have offices, the supervisors, all have offices. Yeah.
I don't know if they have. I don't think they have offices.
They have individual offices in
Do they? I don't know if they have offices or not.
I think one of the keys may be if somebody looked into what's actually being asked of Diane. This whole thing, might have been. We might not have ever even noticed it. And the reason why I say that is she's normally very nice to me, but one day I asked her to do something, and she got after me real quick. So, I've worked with employees long enough to know that that's usually when I'm overburdening them. I don't know. I know because I was looking through a lot of numbers earlier today that the county did many things to tighten up, including the administrative budget. And we asked everybody do a lot of different things that might not normally be their job. Is Diane being asked to do things that aren't just the board?
At the moment, yes, she is. Just like when Diane was on leave, Karen covered both the clerk duties and her own job. And at the moment, Karen is on leave, and Diane is stepping up and helping with aspects of Karen's job. And again, when you're in an office of 5 people and one person is gone for an extended period of time, it does put a strain on everybody else.
Completely understand that, and I'm not trying to put you on the defensive. I'm actually trying to recognize that and saying maybe the issue is solvable by adding to the admin's ability to handle some of these things, and it releases the clerk of the board to work with us a little.
Right. And we are reviewing the job description for clerk of the board and cleaning that up.
And looking at possibilities. So we'll be bringing something to the board as part of budget, most likely.
So when I first got in the office, we actually had Diane and half a person working for the board. It was a one and a half position there.
Yeah,
and that was real helpful.
Actually, initially there were 2. There was a supervising board clerk and the clerk of the board in the clerk recorder's office prior to when the recession hit.
Well, in addition to your surveys, I'll contact CSAC and talk about the rural counties and see if they have any solutions or what works for them in our counties that are like ours throughout the state of California. I'll send the email out tomorrow and get that information. We can put that in the mix.
I think the demands are just getting bigger for everybody. For county council, because now everybody in the world now wants to everything has to go through council nowadays, because the county has to be very careful not to get sued for chewing gum, or anything else. And for us, me in particular, I know, and I'm a pretty active person, and I can actually get in trouble if I didn't have some guidance sometimes. But also I like to research a lot of things. And so I get pretty overwhelmed at times, because it's just me. I go to Diane. She don't have time to do anything other than the agenda and the things that are just kind of assigned to her. Before, I remember going to her and asking her questions, and she would help a little bit, because she's been around longer, and she has a lot more history here and a lot more experience. Something that would take me 2 days to figure out, she can figure out in 10 minutes, and that's just invaluable.
Right.
So, I've been kind of missing that. Really hadn't been able to put my finger on it, but when these guys brought this up, it kind of took me back and made me realize that it was just a little bit different back then, and that was for the board anyhow, was a better deal. I mean, I don't think we need an individual. I don't think we can afford an individual person. I wouldn't know how to really keep them that busy anyhow, but they could probably find something. But Diane is experienced, and that at that time when I needed her, I mean, it was very helpful to get that information from.
But we need someone that is devoted to telling the public what we have done, because our issues are getting more and more complex. Wait till the general plan hits the board. Somebody has to do that from a Brown Act safe venue. I give you that. I can't tell you who they need to respond to. Maybe we need a 20-hour-a-week person that works with Diane, that manages information going to a website. Because right now, most people, like it or not, are getting their news from Facebook.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different information that goes on out there, and it's not all. Almost none of it's true.
Right. Well, and I could say like a PIO definitely administrative.
Yeah, I'm just not sure PIO. I mean, PIO. I mean, it'd be great to have, but I'm not sure that's going to help our problem with Facebook. I mean, that's a whole different animal there. I'm not sure how much a PIO is really going to help. Honestly, is that really where we want to spend our extra money, or lack of extra money on PIO? And for me, it's just not a priority. I understand where you guys come from, and it'd be nice if it would be actually helpful to a large degree, but I don't think it's really going to solve our problems. I think it's just
it would have solved your issue from driving down on Saturday this weekend.
No, it wouldn't have, not for the PIO.
Sure, because you would have.
That would have been. That's an OES. That's an OES then.
What's your thoughts?
So my thoughts. I sort of agree on the PIO. I think there's some information that it would be helpful if it was kind of filtered and it went out as a board information item. I don't think we're going to cure the social media, and I think a lot of people are going to be very dependent on social media, and there's tons of lies on social media. But more importantly to me is along the lines of what Supervisor Wright is saying. In the 4 years that I've been on the board, I could use an office. I used to be able to say I could work out of my home office, and that's becoming more and more difficult because I don't allow anybody public in my home anymore based on threats and innuendos I get on various subject matters. It's difficult for me to meet with in public places because that gets on Facebook about, who I might be in relationships with, et cetera, et cetera. Tonight is a prime example. I had somebody call me who wanted to meet with me very confidentially and wanted to share information, and we thought about different places we could meet, and in the end he met me here at the Government Center, and we had a meeting out on the bench. I'm just finding a place as I move out of this office and take a look at somebody coming in. I think it's important that we have a dedicated office of sorts that we can share in some way, because I also get concerned with confidential information that is in our homes. We get an awful lot of confidential information, and I'm not always assured that it can remain confidential in our homes. So that's a concern. I think in the past, when there was another board clerk, I think that was helpful to board members. If we did have somebody that was perhaps dedicated to the board and served part-time, full-time, that we have X amount of allocated hours, so nobody is hogging the time of one person or another. or jointly we agree that this is a priority project, and that's how the time is being spent with this person. I'm real curious as to what other counties do. I have a pretty good idea with the rural counties I work with and what they do. And, you know, most times it's a board clerk of some fashion and some limited office space that, you know, you can go to, and you can keep budget files, and you can keep correspondence that you get from folks and everything else. And you have a professional meeting place. I don't like meeting at Starbucks. You know, there's a whole crew there of public that can come in and
over here,
second guess over here, post it on Facebook, on and on and on. I try to use the county as much as I can. You know, I've used the local fire departments and police departments. Difficult to use our libraries because they're so small and they don't really have meeting room space. Space they do have is very public. So those are things I look for as we move forward. It feels odd to be asking for these requests because most of the complaints I get is the short staffing in so many of our other departments and why things aren't being processed timely, and you know, everybody's crying, and not crying is not the right word, but, you know, needing staffing to meet the demands of their individual departments to serve the community. So I don't know if a board clerk could serve as a PIO in some capacity. I think it is important that we put information out there from time to time on these incidences of fires and things along that way. I look to the CAL FIRE for these kinds of things. I look for the Sheriff Department for these kinds of things. They're spot on the emergency. They know what's going on. They have the most critical information. But the sad thing about all this is so many people want to know information that it's not really their business at that point. You know, it's really hard when you get an incident about, you know, homes burned, someone arrested, someone this, someone that. You know, it takes time to put out that information. They're not going to have it spot on to get correct information. So I get real concerned about a PIO, you know, that being the direction. It takes a little bit of time to sort through and put out accurate information to the public. And that's what we have to be here, as accurate as we can be. You know, for the board policies and things that come along here, possibly the board clerk could work along those lines in addition to whatever else. But I would be real curious to see what other counties do if we create this. And again, you know, some of the questions here, I don't know space-wise where this person could be housed, part-time, full-time. I mean, those are all things I'd like to see more study on to see where we go from there. But, you know, I think along those lines, you know, some professional office area for the board would be helpful. You know, whether we all allocate ourselves one day a week or we reserve it or something like that would be helpful to hold this kind of confidential information that we typically take home and it sits in our homes. I don't know about you guys or our cars.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I agree with most of what Debbie said, probably all of it. We do need an office to meet. I had a request today for a confidential meeting. Some people don't want to sit in Starbucks, and if you've been in office for a while, you can't sit there either without, while you're talking to somebody, you have to say hello to somebody 15 times, which is a good thing in a way, but not when you're trying to focus on someone who might be telling you some horrific need. But I go back to us needing a PIO. I have had to explain at least 5 times that when the Barden-Steveno initiative came before us, we had 2 choices, either to approve it right then or to send it to the ballot. And we sent it to the ballot. And still, all those people wanted to ask me why we approved that initiative into law that day. We didn't do that. Somebody should have explained that thoroughly to the public for us. Because for those 5 people that questioned me about it and asked about it, there's probably 100 that didn't say anything.
One of those 5 people told 100 more to you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it goes along those same lines. It's not the Barden Initiative. And here we are repeating that here. So
well, no, and
we can
I'm
be
sorry.
part of the problem too.
Yeah. I completely agree.
So,
I'd like to see, once again, we'll contact CSAC, see what similar counties do. I do share Supervisor Ponte's views and positions on having someone or a place to meet confidentially. I've also met with a constituent today in this chamber at 4 o'clock for a confidential meeting. As far as the PIO, I agree with we need to get the right, accurate information out. I don't know how to do that with this board, the way it's structured in our admin. I'm familiar with public safety, how that happens in PIO situations, but let me do a little research and see what I can help you with.
Okay. My office also, now that we have clear direction on what questions or what you would like answered, we will also reach out and get more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually was pretty happy with when I first started with the arrangement that we had. Diane seemed to manage that very well, and she had had a little bit of backup too. She had some support too. I just didn't feel the same way that I feel right now, because I actually felt like we had. I know everybody's stretched right now. I mean, that's probably why, but we are too. And so it just saves a lot of time when you have somebody with that historical knowledge, because we're all here for 3.5 years max. There's not a whole lot of historical knowledge here, really, and so that makes her valuable.
And we're working on that also.
Thanks. Okay.
Public comment?
Public comment on that. You guys just wait for that one.
Nancy Gowan, Taxpayer Association. This is very interesting. And I think Chris has some wisdom there about finding out what the other counties, especially smaller counties, are doing. From what I heard, it seemed like Amador and Tuolumne counties have a sort of a mixture between the CAO and the board clerk. Take care of the function of IPO. And the more I think about it, the function of the board is not to run the county. It's really run by the CAO. The board sets policy. So the board is not expected to have instant answers on everything going on. Usually if it's an emergency, it's probably involving the sheriff or fire. And then when we talk about what the board has done, even that's not the board responsibility. That's what we have a news media for, and they're pretty good. They report pretty accurately in a fair and balanced manner. So the following day, anybody that wants to know what's happening can pretty well get that from our media, news media.
I have to disagree with you on that.
And there's a second disagreement here.
Oh, we got two. Now, how about the other three?
No offense,
so,
Mr. Nichols, I trust you, but bottom line is there is not accurate information disseminated by our press resources.
Okay. In my experience with local media is that they've been pretty good. It may be, maybe I agree with what their viewpoint, but I don't think it's that. National media is just horrible. You couldn't believe anything they say. So media is the main way that the public gets information about what you guys are doing. Now, for people here, it looks like the key people, Diane, I hate to make more work for you, but she really knows what's going on. She writes the minutes, and if there has to be a public report relating to something's going on, it almost be like expanding the minutes or shrinking the minutes a little bit to get something from the public. And also you need to have a public face. And normally that wouldn't be the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. It'd probably be the CAO. So maybe the the board clerk and the CAO, when it's needed, can put together public announcements of something that's important. And not to put you guys out of work, but there's really nothing much for you to do. You already did it when you passed something, or didn't pass something. Oh, I hear a little beeper. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Saved by the beeper.
Good evening. Thank you, Diane, for your work on Parks and Rec last night. That was a big help. And Supervisor Pawnee, I fully understand what you're talking about. And no, I don't want the cases of whatever that might be there, because it is a challenge, even where I'm at now. I think what you're dealing with, though, is two separate types of public information officer. I've been around OES and PIOs with CAL FIRE, CDF in the old days, as well as with big business and also with agencies. And do you want a PIO to speak for the board and to be that unified message for the board, or do you want a PIO who speaks as a unified message for the county as a whole? And those could be part-time positions. They don't have to be full-time, but everybody has to have an agreement or an understanding that the message that goes out is going to be vetted through the county council, is going to be vetted through all of the information sources that are necessary, and it isn't any one supervisor speaking. It isn't any one agency individual speaking. It is the PIO that makes those statements, and that will give you that consistency, as you've probably seen in the last 3 years, the consistency at CCWD because of the installation of somebody who does take care of information only. And we don't speak for the board. That is our information officer's job. And so it's just coming to an agreement of what you want that person to do and to what level you want them to work to be successful. And I think it should be a larger scope than just speaking for the board. They should be able to speak to all issues surrounding the county's affairs and be able to be that person that vets everything out and gets you the information so that it is accurate and it is consistent and it is the face and the voice of the county. So I appreciate your consideration on it. Thanks.
Bill McManus, Hanford Hill. There's a couple things about this that really disturbs me. First of all, I think we have a PIO for the Sheriff's Department, if I'm not mistaken. She's the short lady that comes up and gives stuff.
Mr. McManus, you are incorrect. PIO for the Sheriff's Department is Sergeant Everhart.
Oh, okay. Well, but they do have a PIO. Okay.
PIO for the Butte Fire is Sharon Torrance.
Okay.
I'm correct on that? That's the short young lady.
Oh, okay. But I've heard it titled PIO, so anyway, we've got some. What concerns me is the PIO position becomes some way to give a homogeneous presentation of 5 different board members who are elected by different constituencies. What I would prefer, and what I think works now, is that we hold our individual supervisors accountable for giving us that information. If their information is incorrect, they have to stand by that. If they don't want to give information, they have to stand by that. But they are the employees for the people that they represent. So I don't want to hear a story that comes out that's been molded to fit everything and then find out later that my supervisor didn't agree with that. But that got put into the batter and mixed together, and that's what came out. I also hear the statement about putting it out there. Maybe that's what PIO means, putting it out. Put it out to where? We've got a member of the Fourth Estate here. We've got a paper that gets published twice a week. We don't have a radio station that covers the whole county. There's our 2 papers, but they're published twice a week. Public access TV is not available to everyone. I'm on satellite. I can't get it. There's no good media source to put it out there to where it's going to reach anyone. And so that's why we depend on our own little individual things like the Pine Tree or something else where our supervisor may have something listed, or a town hall meeting that we can go to. We can ask our supervisor. Putting it out there when there's no place to put it to, we don't have a town crier system that can take this information and disseminate it throughout the county. And there's no electronic means to do it. Not everyone gets on Facebook. Not everyone gets on the Pine Tree. Not everyone goes to the Enterprise site. There's no avenue, there's no media in this county that the county can use to disseminate information to everybody. And at that point, that becomes responsibility of our supervisors. If they get information from CAO or the Sheriff's Department does it, that's where it needs to come from. Because you need to be accountable for that information, because we're the ones that you're telling. We get it from you. We need to hear that from you.
30 seconds.
So anyway, and as far as PIOs and assistants, I think it's just another effort to further bloat the size of government here. I agree with Supervisor Wright for the first time in 4 years. Maybe we'll do it again before you leave. Yeah, all right. This isn't going to work. It bloats government. I would rather see all the money spent on sheriff's officers, but I just don't want to see all of this get so distributed around and concentrated that it doesn't mean anything to anybody. Thank you.
Marty Crane, Valley Springs. Thank you, Bill. I think I agree with most of what you said. One thing, when you say that there's no place to put it out there, we live in rural America, so we put it out everywhere we can, starting with our newspapers and the website of the county website. So everybody has a little different way of interacting, and if you want it, we have libraries. If you want the information, you can get it. It's out there. And then also, number 2, this is public comment. Please don't interrupt when people are speaking. So this is public comment if there's time to speak. And then also, Debbie, I know I speak for many people. I miss you already. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Any other public comments? Good. Thanks. Chris has requested a 5-minute break.
I don't think the air is working anyway. So I thought maybe we could just get something from outside.
I wasn't sure if it affected the...
No, we turned off the TV in the lobby.
Okay, we ready to start again? Are you ready?
Roger that.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So item 8 from the Board of Supervisors is to provide direction to staff regarding the development of policies and procedures relative to town hall meetings held by the board members.
This is put on at this request of Supervisor Edson, so I'll let you take the lead.
Okay. So the reason I did this is because there was some question about Supervisor Oliveira when he did his town hall meeting up in Arnold, which I thought was a really good idea, actually, on tree mortality. And so there was some costs associated with that and all of that. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about it and set some policy. So you want to talk about it from there?
Yeah, I thank you, Supervisor Edson. First of all, let's establish what actually happened. When I decided to hold this town hall meeting, I did check with CAO Ryan, and she was very accommodating and actually informed us that we really had no policy when supervisors hold town hall meetings. On an issue as the tree mortality and the importance of it, we had to find a venue that would fit everybody that wanted to attend. And in my district, the largest venue we had was actually Avery Middle School. We had estimates anywhere from 350 to 500 people that attended that. I didn't take a head count. Someone tried, they lost track at 452. But to do that, we had to spend some funds. There was a fee for the janitorial services for a Saturday there. That was $25 an hour. There was a fee for setting down 200 chairs on the floor at $1 a chair. Fortunately, on a Saturday, all the attendees on the panel devoted their time to it. There were no travel expenses there. Water was donated by a local supermarket, Big Trees Market. So, in my opinion, I think those are important, that a supervisor has the ability to hold a town hall meeting like that for the constituents and the people that need to know. I'm not saying we need to have one every month. Just a rule of thumb, maybe once or twice a year on very serious, or even an update. An update, what's going on in the district with your supervisor once every 6 months or something of that effect. I thought it was very successful. I still get a lot of feedback from the folks that attended, but more importantly, from the folks that weren't able to attend. Now, another cost that has to be factored in was the public access TV, which did a great job of filming that and putting that up on YouTube. So the meeting in its entirety was being able to be viewed. In my district, I'm a little bit unique in the fact that even in Blue Lake Springs, we have 2,200 approximately lots there, and about 73% are part-time residents that live in the Bay Area, that live in San Jose, that live in Sacramento, even across the country. And they need to know what's happening in their district and in their county. In their properties. Because they pay taxes. They may not vote, but they pay taxes. And they need to know what's happening and what your supervisors are doing and what your board of supervisors are doing. As far as the costs associated with that, I can only go on the information that I had when I had my town hall meeting. I don't know if there are rental fees for halls, things of that sort. Usually we've been able to get those donated, if you will, but I don't see where that's going to be a future thing that we're going to count on. So one of the reasons I brought it up. I would like to see the opportunity for each supervisor to hold a town hall meeting in their district once, maybe twice a year. Comments?
Are you looking for like a budget item then? That would be...
Could be a budget item. In fact, I think, speaking with CEO Ryan, there wasn't any budget allotted for that, any line item or anything. And if I remember the conversation in the email, that we should do something about that. And that's one of the reasons that we're bringing this up right now.
So how much are you looking at? $500 a year or something?
I would say 500 a meeting, if it's even that much. I don't know. It all depends where you're going to hold it.
$1,000 a year budget.
Yeah, $1,000 a year. But one other thing that we need to really be aware of is a public access TV on very important issues. I know that we fund that operation, and I don't think we derive any income from it. I did have a conversation with Ed Lark, and I don't think we have any revenue stream from our public access TV. But there was an issue of the time required to actually film that and the editing involved. So I would recommend that we look at their budget, or maybe put that in the cost of a budget item for each individual district.
Okay. Any other discussion? I know what Mike's meeting was about, and I believe it was an important meeting. He had a lot of folks there from Cal Fire, all the departments, OES, and even Brian Moss was there. Public Access TV was there, and it's a really hot issue for them up there right now, the tree mortality, and there's a lot of discussion around trying to find solutions to many solutions, but there's also a lot of people, like we talked about earlier. There's things get spread around, and it can get ugly sometimes, and sometimes it could maybe even involve somebody get hurt, and we don't want that to happen. So I just don't know how to tackle this really, because last time I said that on here, somebody took a snippet of that and put it out and made it look like I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, that's kind of weird, but that's what I call all of this false information that goes on out there. Is what we're talking about. That's why it's important that we're able to put out true information, whether people like it or not, whether we look good or not. It's true. If it's true, it doesn't matter. So, in that particular instance, we have this mortality issue, and it's not going away anytime soon. I think his meeting was timely. I think that it's probably actually overdue, because for him to be able to draw up to 500 people to that one meeting, that's amazing in itself.
So do you think that we should do a budget item, or how do you want to proceed?
Well, I would say that in that particular instance, if we were, I think that since that's a state of emergency, really, if we had that if we had that process in place, it would have been covered anyhow.
Right. So you think we should pursue that?
Or could we adjust the policy that we have for supervisor's expense, which most of us never use anyway, and add $1,000 to a supervisor, and add to that policy that we, up to $1,000 a year, could be used on town halls. To be honest with you, I've yet to file a minus claim, and I know that there are others sitting up here who do not do that either. And those funds, even though they're in the budget, every year go unused.
I'd like to hear from C.A. O'Brien, your thoughts on the policy, how it stands, and what we can do.
I think if you're going to do town hall meetings and you're going to have budget line items, you need to take into consideration, you have to set some guidelines and policy so that, and not just make it a budget line item, because quite frankly, you can pull in staff and resources just at the request. I mean, the cost for the videographer and the editing was substantial hit to the extra higher line item in the public access television budget. And there was no choice but to pay for that, because you have to pay people's salaries. So if the board is going to be using the resources of other departments, because as you stated, I'm not in any way disputing the importance of the issue or the possible need for the town hall meeting, getting the information out. I want that to be perfectly clear. But if you don't have guidelines in place and a policy in place, as well as a budget amount, then there is really limited control. When we, and I'm going to just go back since I've been here forever, there used to be a line item in each board member, in the board's budget for each board member for special projects, so that they could do special projects. And they pretty much had free rein of what they could use that money on. Then the issue came up regarding gifts of public funds and whether or not, it was appropriate. So those projects had to come back before the board for the board's approval before that, even though they had $1,000 or $5,000 actually allocated to them. They had to come back before the board for approval to spend it. So, and then as recession hit, we had to make cuts that the board said, no, we can't afford to be doing that. So I think whatever the board decides to do in the way of policies and procedures, you want to have some clear guidance as to what that is, because it's not just a line item in a board of supervisors budget for $1,000. It may be staff time or videographer's time and what have you. And I personally, unless it's an emergency, I think you have the time to go to the board as part of the policy and procedure and say, I plan on holding a town hall meeting, I feel that this is a critical issue for discussion, and then the perception is that it is done at the benefit of the public and not for some other reason. And I think you have to be careful of the perception that you're putting forth. So if you have those guidelines and procedures in place, then it's very clear for everybody what you're doing, the town hall, the reason for it, the board's on agreement, and maybe one of the other board members will say, you know, that is a really important issue, and I want to do that in my district as well, and can be approved all at once. But if you just say, well, I'm going to throw $1,000 in each supervisor's line item in their budget to hold a town hall meeting twice a year if they desire, then you're not really setting up your policy and procedures and looking at what other county resources you may be needing for that town hall meeting. Just my thoughts.
That's reasonable.
I would not want a policy to get so restrictive that you can't hold a town hall meeting in your district that costs nothing.
Oh, no, that would be different.
That's the whole thing. You're then not using county resources that haven't been allocated. What I'm talking about is town hall meetings that you want to hold that is going to use videographer time, that may be using staff time or whatever, that if you have that process in place, if you want to hold a town hall meeting and you can get everything donated and you just want to go out and talk to your constituents, that's a whole different story. And that's what I'm talking about is the important issues that the board feels is critical to expend resources on to get the information out. That's where you need policy and procedures, not when just because you want to go and have a meeting and it doesn't cost anything, it doesn't cost use county resources.
Yeah, usually I just pay for my own.
And then there's no perception that this is anything other than a town hall for county business and a county important issue versus
political. I just felt that Mike felt maybe he had his back against the wall and there was a hot issue up there, and he just wanted to take action on that. I think it was appropriate for what he did.
Absolutely.
I'm
keep in mind that I did not pay for that. That was sponsored by two business people in the Arnold area.
And again, I'm not disputing the intent of that meeting or the importance of that meeting. I am just saying that there was no resources allocated by this board for such a meeting. That's all I was saying.
Maybe we should direct staff to come back with a policy that allows us to do this in specific instances.
A couple of things. So I think like most of you, it's out-of-pocket expenses when I've had town hall meetings. I had one when I was first elected, and what I learned from that is that, it was a lot of staff time because there was a lot of staff that was present. The kind of the guts of the meeting was talking about the general plan and the wagon trail project, and, there are 3 or 4 hot button topics, you might say, at that time. And what I found is that, it's finding a meeting room spot that can accommodate ADA, can accommodate bathrooms, can accommodate, whether you have bottled water or opportunity to get water, parking, getting the information out there to the folks to attend, and then feedback back out to the community about maybe what came of it or the follow-up. Microphones, something simple like that, tables and chairs. All of those things had to be taken into consideration to have such a thing, whether it's a town hall meeting or a community meeting. Had a number of other kinds of community meetings that were very one-topic issues. I'll pick on Wagon Trail for a bit. As we've had various community meetings, and, it crossed over different communities. It was a county-wide invite to attend, although most who attended were affected by the Highway 4 corridor. The general plan has been another one, getting the information out there and, again, finding a spot that's going to accommodate. So, I think some guidelines as to if you're going to have a town hall meeting to make sure we meet some of these criteria in regards to ADA access and bathrooms and parking, and then if we need support services like staff time there, CCTV, microphone, tables, chairs, all of those kinds of things. So I think it's important to have town hall meetings, but I think sometimes we get very focused on just our town or our district. I think the town hall meeting in Avery was good. It was needed. But there's a whole other area of the county that perhaps would have liked to attend to find out what can we do on this part of the county. The tree mortality isn't just one aspect of the county. And perhaps if we flush these town hall meetings through the board, it might get other board members involved to do a joint venture. Or maybe there are 2 meetings, but the same topic, same people come. So again, the same kind of information is getting out there to our constituents. So those, a policy, I think it's maybe guidelines. I don't know about the money aspect of it, because I think all of our school charges differently than perhaps a town hall, that a group of citizens maintain that town hall. They can't necessarily waive a fee. Maybe the school can reduce a fee. Mike experienced weekend call. When I had my town hall meeting, I dealt with weekend call too. The janitor had to be there to open up and turn on the lights and set up the tables and chairs and dump the garbage afterwards and clean the bathrooms, and a lot goes into having a large group meeting that way. And while it's nice that businesses donate and individuals donate, it's kind of hard when it's the same people donating over and over and over again. So I think taking a look at all of these aspects of what goes into kind of an event, you might say, needs to be considered as we start looking at paying for these venues.
Yeah. And I'm perfectly happy leaving it as is. Seems to have been working pretty well for a long time, and although coming up with a policy is probably a good thing, I wouldn't put it as a priority right now. That would be just because of everything else. So I'm fine leaving it as is.
So when I first came onto the board, public perception was, in county offices, there was a lot of discontent and misinformation. Again, we're back to that misinformation thing. And also, so the public was a little bit more upset about county in general. And so what we did was we held town hall meetings, invited each office to come and have a representative, so that when the public came through, they could actually make contact with them and explain what they do, and just we brought the county to the public in a sense in one room, and people would walk around the room and meet everybody, and it was more of it was kind of a good thing because they weren't just county anymore. They were people that worked at the county, and they were just like them. Same people that were complaining about it actually got to meet some of the folks, and then afterwards it took a lot of pressure off, I think, of county staff too, and county different groups in the county, because sometimes it's just a matter of showing up and shaking hands and just talking with people, and then that is huge. And I think the staff actually enjoyed that as well.
I think that was good. I'm just going to wind it up then. So, do we want to give some direction yet?
Yeah. Public comment. Thanks. Let's get to that point now.
House of Common Taxpayer Association. I don't know, Chris, you really got some wisdom about you.
It's been nice time.
Yeah. There seems like there's 2 things going on here. One is a meeting of constituents, and which is good. You need to communicate with people who elected you. and share information about what's happening in that district. That's one, it could be called at a town hall meeting or maybe another name. That's one thing. And another thing is major things that are going on for a town hall that involves more than just one district. It would seem in that second category, the county staff can help set that up. And now that's done anyway when you have planning commission, not planning commission, but community plan activity. The planning department actually sets things up and has it run pretty smooth. So in category A, Chris is right. What's working now works fine. Category B, which is kind of like what Mike is talking about, is pretty major, and there's money involved in it, and it wasn't really planned in advance for the county to help. So it's kind of like hindsight now, but there could be some sort of policy which would allow major town hall meetings to be set up by the county. Thank you.
I am Mr. Reyes from the 5th District, New Gentleman. There was a question of where you're going to have the meeting, etc. Do you folks have any idea how many places that the county is supporting or renting out for next to nothing? How many structures, how many properties you have? Does anybody knows? Okay, that's one thing. You guys always follow your predecessor's policy. Just go along to get along, folks. That would be wonderful. The county published a book. Just go along to get along. Don't bitch, just do it. Now, if people are going to go up for a meeting, they want to hear you. Because you're the only one is accountable and replaceable and etc. Staff, hey, whatever happens, they got job security, more or less. But they want to hear you, and you can invite some of your, if you agree with them or not, hey, invite a couple other supervisors. In a big public meeting, you can have other supervisors, okay? You're not going to sit at the same table, but in an audience and etc. So, as far as money goes, folks, there's a lot of places you can have for nothing because they are publicly owned and supported and paid for by the taxpayers. And I'm sure they would be more than happy to share their little lodge or whatever you want to call it, or meeting place, with their favorite supervisor. And folks, they want to hear you. You're thinking why you did it, how you did it, and etc. You're not really talking about big money. It just takes time. Because you are missing out a number of hundreds of thousands of people. They got to work for a living. So they're not here during 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. The people who show up is usually one or two items that happens to be hot that particular day for a good percentage, and after that they boogie out of here. But an average person who busts his butt to make a living might be available in the evening.
30 seconds.
Make yourself available for them. That's where the complaining is. I go to a few meetings here and there, and I hear complaints about a lot of the staff. Okay? They want to hear you folks. You're the ones that are accountable, nobody else. And you do have properties, and I bet none of 5 of you know all the properties that this county owns that leasing out for $1 or $2 or whatever. Make use of it. The school has a problem giving you a break. I got a couple of suggestions, folks. Your generosity toward the school. Just take a look at how much the schools gets, how much attendance gone down. Thank you.
Bill Wilson, District 1. Personally, I would like all of you to have town meetings. And another way you could look at this, you could also set up a simple page on the county's website, ask your supervisor, each one of you, any constituent could ask any supervisor on that page whatever their little problem was, and could then be addressed by that supervisor or supervisors or the whole board. You could do it on your website. Most people have access to computers in this county. Those who didn't probably know somebody that does. But the personal contact that you would get from town hall meetings could never be duplicated with a website or a page. Maybe you could look at both options. The cheaper would definitely be a web page, takes a little code writing, you're done. The questions come in. You may not want to hear them or see them, and they may not be in the language that you want to hear, but it would be contact. It would be a way to get that information definitely out to the public. You could tie it to your Facebook or any other place.
Okay.
Bill McManus, Hanford Hill. As for myself, I'd like to thank my supervisor for having the town hall meeting. When you get 500 people to show up anywhere and to get information, that's a pretty efficient way to spend money. If it was $500 or $1,000, you couldn't spend that money anyplace else in the county and get better coverage, whether it's with the newspaper, public access TV, planes trailing signs behind it, or blimps. 500 people showed up to listen to our supervisor and to the crew he put together. That is a very efficient means. I find myself just stunned tonight that lightning has struck twice in the same place. And I find myself agreeing with Supervisor Wright yet again within a very short period of time. I think the way it works now is pretty good. Earlier on, you were talking about assistants and offices and all sorts of stuff. Having some money for town hall meetings is chump change. Maybe all supervisors don't want to have town hall meetings, but those who do should not be impeded by policies or something from appointed people. This is something that elected officials need to do. We voted for you. You have the authorization to spend the money. I think you could do it wisely, and maybe one would set a good example for another, that you had a successful town hall meeting, and it would work in some other district. Mike's was a very successful town hall meeting. I appreciate it, and I think it was well worth the money. I don't know what the county spent, but I'd gladly see the county spend it again for another meeting, because the stuff comes up, and every single one of you has different issues in your district. District 1 may be talking about star thistle one day, and District 3 is talking about snow removal. You know, their topics are all different around the county. And so whatever a supervisor feels his people need, he should be able to do it. He will know how successful he is by the number of people that show up. You have a town hall meeting, 5 people show up. Okay, well, maybe you better rethink some of those town hall meetings. You call a town hall meeting, get 500 people show up, you hit the nail on the head. And so that is the most direct way to communicate with a lot of people. And the news follows after that. But all those people heard it firsthand and live. So I want to thank Supervisor Oliveira for organizing that. It was a terrific meeting. Thank you.
All right. So what's board direction?
I'm going to side with Chris. I don't think we need to do anything. If something like Mike comes up and there's going to be an expense, bring it to the board and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Agreed.
That's good with me. All right.
Chris, you're scoring high tonight. You'll be walking out of here 2 inches tall.
Item 9 is from the administrative office. Appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. We have several vacancies that we have applications for. The first is 2 vacancies for the Assessment Appeals Board. This vacancy was advertised on August 12th, 2016. The terms end on September 1st, 2020. We have an application from Anita Pock and from Al Segala, who are both currently members of the Assessment Appeals Board. The next is for County Service Area 4, Diamond 20 Advisory Board. This vacancy was advertised as part of the annual advertisement in 2015 and was never filled. One vacancy for a term ending 12/31/2020. An application has been received from Joe Guerrero Jr. The next is for a vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission. This vacancy was advertised as part of the annual advertisement in 2015 and was never filled. It's one vacancy for a term ending 12/31/16, and an application has been received from Joe Guerrero Jr. To be appointed as a representative of District 4. The last is a vacancy on the PEG TV Commission. This vacancy was advertised as part of the annual advertisement in 2015 and was never filled. It's one vacancy for a term ending 12/31/17. It's for a government representative, and we have an application from Brian Moss.
Okay. Any public comments? Okay, bring it back to the board.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Motion by Supervisor Ponte, second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. That was easy, huh? Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item for the consent agenda for later discussion. Any members of the public wish to pull a consent agenda item?
17, please.
17. Okay. Any other items from the public to be pulled? From the board?
I move to approve the remaining items.
Second. I have a motion to approve the remaining 10 through 16 consent agenda items. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 17 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution continuing the local health state of emergency by Environmental Health Director and County Health Officer.
Mr. Reyes from General Inn, the 5th District. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. I got a question. I can appreciate what Public Works is doing and why they're doing it. I can understand for Planning Department is doing. But I sure would like to see or hear what the health director's doing and what accomplished, what his contribution, so I can fully appreciate his work. I mean, there got to be some numbers. You can't count out the trees or bushes or anything like that. But he must be active in this emergency situation. I sure would like to know what he's done, what he's doing, why he's doing it. So just get me informed so I can fully appreciate his hard work. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any public comments off of that? No? Board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I would say for your answer to that, Peter, why don't you go visit Jason in his office? He is readily available all day long. He's not here tonight.
Okay.
And he will be happy to answer any of those questions.
Okay. I just thought maybe since you're voting on it, you can have some information why you're approving or disapproving something. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Board member announcements.
I make a motion that we skip this for this meeting.
So that was your announcement.
Adjourn the meeting.
I have nothing to report.
Mike?
Moment, please.
I'm going to be back next week.
I will be attending a CSAC board meeting on Thursday, the 1st in Sacramento. I will also be meeting with Chief Johnson of Evans Pass Fire to discuss ambulance problems, response times, redistricting, things like that. This is a normal general briefing. I know, Tammy, that's your committee. I'd like to make sure we get the best information I possibly can on that for the coming year. And that's all I had to report.
Okay. I'll save mine for next week.
All right, and I have nothing to report. Sir? Yeah. We need to adjourn. All right, guys. Hasta luego.